Hello, everybody, and welcome to Bevvies with the Boys. It's our second Worlds 2021 episode. My name is Munch. That's Dagda over there. I don't know why I pointed at the camera. He's over there. We are the boys, and today for Bevvies, we are joined by the LCK chaps themselves, Atlus and Chronicler. Guys, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much.
This episode was a long time in the making. I feel like we tried a couple of times to make it happen. It's finally happening. Welcome, especially Atlus, who has never been on the show before. We tried to get you on, I think, like a year ago or something, and it all fell through.
Yeah, I feel like it's been an effort for like the last, I don't know, almost like a year and a half or something like that. And every time you message me, I'm like, yeah, that sounds great. And then I'm busy or something.
And then life,
yeah. It's mostly my fault, I assume.
And Chronicler as well, rejoining Bevvies once again. This is your second episode. Excited to be back, or nervous to have to go through it all again?
Yeah, my agent talks about how much you're paying me, right, Munch? Like,
I've sort of fobbed them off for now, and I'm hoping that they'll just forget to follow up. So
I mean, my agent is me, so that would actually make a lot of sense.
Yeah. I don't check my DMs very often. That's all, mate. I've just forgotten about it. Let's do a quick whip around as we do at the start of every episode. We'll go clockwise. So, Chronicler, you can start. What are you drinking today? Because over in Korea, it is evening. In where we're at, it's midday right now.
I'm drinking coffee. I'm not much of a drinker. The coffee is just about ready. And we're feeling it's an AeroPress. It's a really fun coffee brewer. So like you put coffee in and then you press it like a giant syringe. So like,
whoa!
Now I've pressed it down, right? So now the coffee is out, and then like you can take it off, and then the coffee is there, and then I like take off the top.
And you get like a slice of coffee,
and then you got like the puck, and then I just eject that into the thing I have here, and then that's it. And now I have coffee.
So is that called like a lazy French press? Is that what they call it?
It's called an AeroPress, but you can call it whatever you want, Max.
Yeah, I'm going to call it a lazy French press. I want one.
It's really fun. It's really, really good.
You confused me along the way. I'm not entirely sure how the coffee is made, but I'm excited. That's really what matters.
Well, actually, okay, so Munch, what you do is it sits in the syringe, right? And brews and percolates, right? And then once it's done, it comes out the bottom when you press in the top. So based on physics, if you compress all of the liquid in the top part, it comes out the bottom part. And it stays in there beforehand because
I thought the coffee was still in the thing that he was showing us when he took the little puck off of the top or something.
Yes.
No,
this is why we don't do Bevvies
into the cup and then has the coffee. It's pretty cool.
The Bevvies I usually talk about are
I'm very sorry.
This complicated.
This
and if they are this
is on me.
complicated, there's a bartender for that, you know. Let's continue with the whip around. Atlus, mate, how are you doing? What are you drinking today?
I'm doing super good. I'm gonna go a little bit lighter on the drinking this evening. I've only brought a couple with me, but I'm starting with a Leffe Brun.
Oh,
and I am because I just love it. It's delicious. I love the more ale-y type beers, you know.
I don't know if I've ever had the Brun, but Leffe's
Leffe is so good.
It's actually never mind. I'm not going to actually do it. I don't want to be that guy.
Is it Leffe?
Oh, yeah.
No. The Leffe is actually right, but it's brown.
Oh, right. Yeah. No. Sorry. Yeah, I don't have anything in my nose at the moment, so I can't pronounce it.
Do you know, hilariously, when I was a kid, the way they told us to do an Australian accent was literally to hold the nose. So as soon as you hold the nose,
just talk out of your nose.
You go straight into Australian. So kind of amusing that you would.
I think it works very well. That's Atlus right there.
Joke because making the joke back is very easy, you know. So it's a level playing field.
Yeah,
that's the way I think about it. Even though my Australian accent is like barely hanging in there, I have to really kind of put it on now to go full Australian, and it makes me a bit sad.
Yeah, it's very muted, but it's noticeable. Like when you talk, I know you're Australian, but it's not I'm not afraid that a wallaby's going to fly out
better,
during
though.
the conversation, you know.
Just raining drop bears with every vowel. Hell yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
All right, let's continue with around Dagda. What you on today, mate?
Well, speaking of accents, if you didn't know if I was Irish from the accent, I've got a bit haywire with the drinks. So, Munch gave me the idea to go and get a few cocktails. So I started off with, I was like, oh, they got a pina colada, and then I was like, oh, and then they had a cola. So I got a cola one, and then they had a fizzy pink lemonade. I was like, that sounds nice. And then there was like, well, if I'm gonna get those three, I might as well get the pineapple one. And then I found this like grapefruit pink and raspberry twist gin, so I got one of them. And then I was like, well, I'm going to be day drinking, so I have cider. So I'm just going to let chat vote as to what exactly I start with. But I was like, yeah, went a bit over the top.
A picture of Henry Cavill on one of them with a beard?
I don't know. It was like,
great.
I saw this man and I was like, this is great. I need to put this in.
He's got Wolverine on the front of it for some reason.
Butler from 300.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's got like birds and butterflies and stuff around him. I was like, great, I'm sold.
Sounds wonderful.
I don't know. I thought that the show was sponsored by Malibu at the beginning there. That was
yeah. So did I. I was really excited for a second. Yeah, no, there's a Polish beer that has a picture of Indiana Jones on it. That's not meant to be Indiana Jones, I think, but similar vibes. But yeah, I went with a similar theme to Dagda. I was in the co-op, and they had a little gift set. And so in said gift set, it came with... Oh, shit, I can't pick them up. It came with these three wonderful cocktails and a little cocktail glass as well. So I'm going to be pouring myself some nice little cocktails as we day drink. It is, for anyone that's watching around the world, it is currently 12:45, just past midday, where me and Rob are. And we have far more alcohol.
Oh, man, nailed it.
I feel like you guys are being sensible in the evening, and we're like, midday sounds fucking great. Let's go.
That just means more hours for drinking. That's all that matters, you know.
Exactly.
And so you can see what you're drinking as well because it's still bright.
Exactly.
True.
You know, and like if you're too drunk to see the light switch, you're safe because the sun's getting in. You know, there's a lot of
you overestimate Britain. The sun doesn't often get in.
Good point.
All right, so let's talk a little bit, not just about League of Legends, but let's catch up as well because it has been for Chronicler. It's been like I don't know, almost a year, I guess, since you came on the show. It was like it was when you very first started LCK, right? So pretty much a full year ago.
Yeah, I think so. Was it already?
Rand on.
Oh shit! Yeah,
and
it was beginning of the year.
Like you guys were both fresh in your new leagues. How's your year been, mate? How's LCK? How's Korea? How are you enjoying living the esports dream?
Yeah, it's really good, right? Like I've been having a really good time. Co-workers are so, but outside of that, honestly, it's been a really good experience. I think that the main thing that still kind of baffles me is because the LCK I got used to after like the first split, right? Because you kind of get in the groove and I could kind of wrap my head around that, but I haven't really fully wrapped my head around the fact that I'm also doing international events. That's still very, very weird. But fortunately, I got Atlus to keep me grounded. It's very very good at that.
I'm helping
knock the ego down every once in a while.
It's an important skill set, right? So, but outside of that, it's been an incredible honor to work on the LCK to represent the region at Worlds as well. It's been really, really cool.
So talk me through the start of that process, because like obviously there's an expectation when you're going to a major region. There's like you dreamed of doing this. This is something you wanted to do for years. So then when you got to LCK and you're sat in LOL Park for your first cast at the LCK, talk me through that experience, because that must have been like almost a life-changing moment for you.
I mean, I thought it was going to be. It wasn't really. It's like one of those moments where you're like, you're great. No, that's not what I'm saying. But like you're bracing for impact, and then impact doesn't really come. And you're saying like, okay, well, it's still you're still talking about the video game, and I love the video game. And obviously, I think the summer finals was like that was a really like mind blowing. Like, how am I here? How am I watching Caster Jun do like a live introduction of these players? How am I like sitting next to Faker and makeup like that was, I don't know, that was really really unreal. And I mean, it was obviously also nervous as fuck, right? Like before every first time I do something, I have been and will be indefinitely very nervous. So it was mainly that the first time I went to Law Park, even though I'd already done, I don't know, like how much was it? Like a month of online casts? Not sure. Don't know if you remember,
like,
Max.
Like before you did your first Law Park cast?
Yeah. Like how many? It was like 3 weeks, I think.
I think it was only about 2 or something like that, because I think you turned up right when we were getting back into the studio. Because there was talk of us putting you on.
Oh
wait,
yeah,
no, hang
you're
on,
right.
no. That was like we were going to have you cast right as you land, and we didn't do that. I think.
Yeah, but that was
it was only
no, but that
like
was
2 or 3
for.
weeks,
I do
that was
remember
still
that
for remote,
being yeah, still for remote, even though it didn't actually come to fruition, which was very, very good.
Yeah, definitely good call. I've done the get off a plane, get onto a desk, and
Not what
didn't
you
go
want.
well. Not gonna lie.
Not super.
I literally
enjoyable.
got off the plane and took a cab to Sangam and cast LCK. Like that was the transition. I'd been awake 36 hours or something like
Jesus
that, and then was on a desk.
Do you get
It was
when you're
good news.
random question on a tangent of that? Do you get jet lag when you go from like Australia to Korea? Because you're in pretty much the same time zone, right?
No, it's 2 hours.
Yeah.
You only get like, I don't sleep on planes very well, so I only get tired, not jet lag
but not
necessarily.
Jet lag,
Yeah, I feel that.
But I also sleep at the wrong time anyway, so I think that my body's permanently jet lagged just from gamer hours. So I don't know. I
That's
think
the most relatable thing you've ever said. Yeah, I know that feeling. So on the other side of that, then conversely, Atlus, what was it like having Mao join the team? Like, what was that transition like? Has he settled in well? Because I feel like you're kind of the mother hen of the LCK at this point, and he's one of the little chicks that comes and sits in the nest. How has that feathery experience been?
It's been interesting, to be honest. Like the transition is like from okay, let me talk about it this way. So when I joined the LCK, even dating back to when I was casting the LPL and the OPL and things like that back in Australia, there were people like Spawn and Papa, and now at the LCK there's LS as well. Well, then in the LCK there was LS. So there were a lot of very powerful opinions. And for a lot of my like early casting, I was mindless ape yelling about action on screen, and then there would be smart person talking about smart shit that happened as well. I think there's been like this really cool transition that's happened this year where it's more conversational, where we're like, as a casting team, we're a team of people that know shit about League of Legends, and we do it together and sort of drive all of these like more analytical points together. And that's never really been a thing that I have done so much in my career, just because I had so many extremely opinionated people next to me on desks the majority of the time. So it has been really, really cool to be able to like have Mao and Wolf that are far more, I guess, bounceable is not the word.
Conversational, yeah.
Conversational, and they're not going to be like, no, this is my idea, this is how it's going to be. It's more, this is my suggestion. Do you want to break it down? And then we discuss, as opposed to I say, so what's the late game going to look like? And then LS says something about they're not freezing enough and therefore they're going to lose, or Papa says something like, back in 1963, this guy did this and therefore this is going to happen, which is what he would have done. And what Spawn would have done is said something like, yeah, they don't have this, fuck them. I don't know. I felt like Spawn was like the most direct co-caster I've ever had. And like every time I'd say something, he's like, if it's a dumb question in any way, he would never lighten the blow. He would always just be like, yeah, obviously that's going to happen. Try again. Like, all right, well, I'm not going to ruin this again. So it's been really cool to like have both Wolf and Mao bring a different flavor to the LCK. That's been the main thing.
That's awesome. I'm glad it feels like a new thing for you as well, because I'm never sure because I've never been in a region as long as you have, right? I've never had that level of longevity, and I wonder like how much, because obviously it changes in terms of who you're casting with, like you're saying, like the style of conversation changes. How much has working in the LCK in general changed? Oh, because how long have you been at the LCK actually? Is it like 4, 5
I joined
years?
2017, so 4 years coming up now.
Yeah.
And so I'd been, this is definitely the longest by like an extra 2 years. So I was only casting the LPL for 2. I guess like the OPL was 2014 to 2017. So it was a little bit longer than the LPL. But now I've been casting the LCK for longer than half my career, which is something I haven't actually even thought about. Damn.
I'm sorry if that was too real for a second there.
Damn, Roller, like, sorry, just to derail us and go into chat just for 1 second. Roller remembers Oscar night back in the LPL.
Yeah.
Holy crap. That was back when, like, Akon was the best actor I have ever seen. He did the most creative int. It almost looked like he was trying to win, but he was still definitely inting, and it was a beautiful moment. It was an absolutely beautiful moment.
Yeah, if anyone's not seen Oscar Night, I would highly recommend going on YouTube and searching LPL Oscar Night. There have been a few games that have been
it has never
Oscar
happened
Night-esque, but
ever.
not to that level.
I mean, that was all based on like the really shitty format and everything as well, right?
Yeah.
So like that has been fixed. So there hasn't been a time like that for quite some time.
Yeah, it can still sort of happen at the end of a round robin if it's like someone's guaranteed seed or whatever, but it's certainly a lot less likely.
It would, hypothetically, if you looked at a bracket and went, there's RNG top esports and say like FPX on one side of the bracket, maybe then you might look at it, but I don't think would happen.
Yeah.
Also,
oh man, good time. Anyway, I derailed. There was a question, I think, and I just completely ignored it.
Just sort of like, how has working in the LCK changed for you over the course of those 4 years, from being like fresh-faced like Chronicler this year versus being the 4-year veteran kind of leader of the caster team?
I guess I'm like probably more arrogant and egotistical than I was before. Probably.
Dagda knows all about that.
Yeah.
No, I know. Don't worry. I hope he's humbled up now.
Oh God, no! Ruling with an iron fist.
Oh God. Hopefully, one of the LPL teams wins in the quarterfinals. Oh wait, that's gonna happen. We're fine.
I think we're gonna get away with that. I think we might be able to. I'd say at least one of them is gonna win that series.
Yeah.
or I don't know. Yeah. Sorry, RNG can sometimes. Well, they did in the past. It was more losing their way towards winning a series, which was why it's so beautiful that they're also a black and gold team, because we have exactly the same thing. I feel like if Gen G beats C9, everyone loses. It's just not going to be a good time.
I'm actually very excited for that series because I feel like I really don't know what to expect out of that series. I feel like Cloud9 are bringing all kinds of shenanigans to the table for that.
I honestly think that Cloud9 and Gen G is just like it's just a question of which team beats themselves harder. Because Cloud9 loses games by forcing overactivity for no reason, and Gen G loses series by like making one mistake and then going like, "No, I'm not gonna play the video game anymore. I don't want to. I'm gonna walk up the dragon and I'm gonna sit at my base." And I think both those things are gonna happen.
It works for Gen G really well though, because the reason why they look like they do nothing is because they never actually instigate anything.
Yeah,
they spend the entire game reacting no matter what. And if the other team's like, well, we're not going to do anything either, Gen G's like, good, we have them in our element. We can also
we have them right where we want them.
But if C9 does just keep making moves and doing stuff, then that's probably exactly what Gen G wants, because they are pretty good at punishing when you don't do the right stuff all the time.
Yeah, the thing I'm a little bit nervous about in this matchup is that obviously Gen G is kind of, to some extent, like win lane, win game style, right? Where you kind of want BDD to just smack someone down in the mid lane. You want to have lane advantages and then just slowly but surely build that until you win. Whereas I feel like Cloud9 is like, I don't know if I dare say this live on the internet. They're a mojo team. They're actually a mojo team because they really don't win through normal League of Legends. They win through doing weird random shit in the mid game and hoping that you don't know how to fucking deal with that, and then the game goes a bit crazy, and then Perks does a backdoor and etc. etc. That's mojo.
Munch, how have your mojo teams been doing?
How long has it been? It's like 8 years. C9 has been that team forever though. Like you remember back in 2014 where they're like trying to take down like Samsung Blue, and they play the like wacky ass split pushy comp, and you've got High hiding in a brush for like 6 years, like waiting for someone to come out and all this sort of stuff. Oh, it was a good time.
Yeah, it's definitely, I would say it's a mojo based org. You know, if mojo is an element, then C9 is like C2M or something, right? 2 parts Cloud and then 1 part mojo.
That's our Hanwha, basically.
I don't know what happened to Hanwha. They look
I
so
think it's
different.
the opposite.
Well, the problem with Hanwha
like
has is Morgan's just being held back, man. Like, what can he do? Have you seen the
absolute state of his mid lane? It's a disaster.
Honestly, what can you do? What can you do? So let's do a bit of a. I don't want to go too far into jumping into the quarters just yet. I kind of want to return to this conversation if that's okay, and let's look at what has happened in the group stage. Because I don't know if you guys noticed, but it went slightly differently to how I think a few people expected. That might be the most. I don't know why I said that so tentatively. It's just such a bizarre group stage. But hey, Damwon did pretty well. So you guys must be pretty over the moon about that. What is it? The third team ever to go 6-0 in groups, I think. Or
but remember when Khan did it last time? Wasn't great.
Hey.
Ended up with Samsung Galaxy winning. That's, the yikes of a time. So hoping that they can keep it going. If like, I'm going to retroactively be extremely excited for Damwon after they win. But if like now I'm nervous,
I mean, what did you guys make of? Let's just go through the groups. Right? So Group A, obviously, Damwon looking very, very good. The rest of the teams, less good.
For me, I was actually really confused that LGD renamed to an existing team. Like that was very confusing to me in Group A.
I thought that was against the rules, but I guess the Phoenix was reborn, as it were, as LGD.
It was a baby Phoenix,
Phoenix
though.
Wants to re-roll, I think.
Reborn from the ashes and then immediately set alight again.
Yeah.
It was brutal for FPX, but also I think Cloud9 and Rogue. I think this group was just a knife fight towards the end, right? All of those tiebreaker games were just so. I don't know what the word is. Like just chaotic and scrappy and just desperate. I guess desperate.
I think desperate is exactly the word. Yeah.
Like, did you guys have any takeaways from like what you were expecting versus reality, or like what you expect from these teams moving forward? Was there any positives to take away? Because I've heard a lot of analysts talking about these series, not necessarily having the most positive takeaways. I'm gonna go first because my take is really short, and then Chronicler can actually do it properly. I sort of saw Group A as Damwon were great. FPX absolutely choked, and then C9 and Rogue I had falling out of the group. And I think C9 definitely overperformed. I think they played extraordinarily well. Like to come off like losing a tiebreaker to DFM and then being able to challenge, some of the best of the world, like that was really impressive. Yeah.
I felt like Rogue just were Rogue, right? I don't think that there were too many surprises there. I saw them basically being third place no matter what in that group, but I thought that C9 was going to be under them, right?
Yeah.
That's sort of like what my impression was. So it all worked out,
that's
except
kind of the
there was a
heartbreaking
swap
thing.
between C9 and FPX.
Yeah, I really feel bad for Rogue at the end of all of this because, like, I feel like usually if it's FPX and Damwon that get out, like, for the Rogue players, it's like, man, that's a heartbreaker. But hey, you know, it's two of the best teams in the world. But the fact that it got so chaotic at the end of the group and then you didn't make it out, that's got to be really hard for the players. That's got to be one that they're going to be dwelling on for a few days because it was so close at the end in that last tiebreaker as well. It was such a close game, and I don't know. I just feel bad for the Rogue players at this point because that's going to haunt them, I'm pretty sure. I feel like Larson has had a lot of moments that haunt him.
I think TSM Hansama is going to be very happy next year. After a fucking stellar performance. Yeah. I don't know. Rogue to me are an interesting team. I think that Inspired and Hansama in particular, like, were really impressive to me. But Odo, Larson fell short compared to both expectations and the capabilities, I think. I think that Trimby was what you'd expected. I don't think it was amazing, but, like, you can't really expect that from a player that's relatively new, I don't think. I was expecting them to be the best team. I did not expect them to go 6-0. And I think that in of itself is still an incredible achievement because I think that even with FPX weekends, getting a 6-0 is just, like, I think it's really impressive. I think that on paper, I'd say that Group C would be one of the weakest, would be the weakest one. And even though RNG were clearly the best team in that group, they also were not able to get a 6-0. And, like, there's a reason why it's so rare, right? So I think it's still really impressive. But I didn't expect it. I didn't expect FPX to completely collapse because everyone kept telling me how good they were. And then I watched some LPL. I was like, yeah, this team looks pretty good. And then obviously they completely bombed. And then, seeing your team go 6-0 does take away a lot of the pressure and the mayhem of these tiebreakers because you're just sitting there like, this is fun. I get to watch a knife fight where, like, my team has made it through. I do think that it was really well done by C9, and I do think that C9 have a lot more clutch than Rogue do, and this is something that's plagued Rogue since forever. And I don't think it's going to go away unless you kind of revamp that team. But that group should never have gone that way, right? So I think as Rogue, you shouldn't be too frustrated because who could have known that we were witnessing one of, like, the biggest collapses that we've ever seen of a league team.
Maybe the most.
Yeah, I got a question for you boys.
Right?
Like, what happened? Tell me what should have happened with FPX. Like, what went wrong?
The weird one for me was, like, we still got them doing the same thing that they do usually, which is going for these, like, early plays, but just completely misunderstanding where they should be going to make them happen. So, like, we got, like, if you look at the first game against Damwon, we had them, like, roaming topside to try and shut down or work with the Jace to help out shut down Khan. But, like, you had this Yumi MF bot side that you just, like, gank once, burn a few summoner spells, and then you set up an easy double kill with the Jarvan and stuff like that. Whereas, like, if you, like, you just play your regular game, but just, like, move your attention bot side more often, they would have come through a lot better. So I don't know. It felt like there was, like, a lot of voices calling them top, and there was no real reason for them to go on top towards Nuggery in a lot of situations. And I know there's a lot of, like, rumors on social media where it's like, oh, Tien's wrist was sore, he had health issues and stuff like that. But, like, this didn't really seem to be, like, a mechanical issue. It was just like hey, we're not really sure how we want to play the game. Which is kind of shocking because FPX have played the exact same game for the last, like, 3 years.
Yeah. One of the weird things to me, there was a hilarious play in the first game where it's Damwon versus FPX. It's literally the first game of groups. It's like 5 minutes into the game. Doinby's level 3 or level 4. And he's just like, all right, it's time to dive top lane. Just starts walking up the river. There's a Scryer's Bloom that is popped on him when he's at, like, Pixel Brush. He's not even close to top lane yet. He gets spotted by the enemy, knows the enemy jungler is topside. He's like, I don't give a shit. We're going in, boys. And just marches up, pops Predator, goes in to try and get the taunt. Obviously, Khan just flashes away. And then they all die. It's like, I respect the confidence. It was one of the most Chad plays I've ever seen. Basically saying, I know you know I'm coming. I just don't give a fuck. But the problem is, the enemy has hands. So that's not how League of Legends works.
For me, a really big recurring theme throughout the entirety of Worlds, and I think Korean mids are the most egregious example of this, but I think even NA and EU mids did a lot better. I think that we have seen that for the LPL specifically, a lot of their strengths never came to fruition because they were getting outlaned so hard. Like Doomby, you know, he's not known for his laning phase, but if you're up against like Showmaker, a player of that caliber, like he had him perma shoved in, right? Like he picked LeBlanc, he picked a specific build designed to counter whatever the counter pick was, which I think was Galio.
It was Galio,
and then he was like half underneath his turret the entire game. Jovi has done the same thing repeatedly. BDD slapped every single mid around. And that takes away so much playmaking capability, which I do think is where LPL teams excel. But yeah, if your mid laner is just perma shut down in every important game, then like you take away so much of the possible plays, especially if your junglers aren't feeling as good, like was the case of for Tian.
I'm surprised that they didn't put like more priority on something like the Rise, because Doombees would look really good on it, but like almost every game we went into, Doomby was just like, yeah, we just don't have mid prio. Just like, all right, cool, I have to lose like a wave and a half to try and make this play. If it doesn't work, right, well, we're kind of fucked.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
It was almost like he was being more of a hipster than usual. And he is a massive hipster, but like he didn't need to be playing like the champions that he was, right? Like he could have been picking meta, but just decided that, you know, Galio's my thing at the moment into LeBlanc, who's arguably just too strong to even be let through.
Yeah.
It felt like what we usually get is dark technology, right? And this tournament we got like bootleg shit you bought at the charity shop that's like a bit of a dodgy invention and might just blow your entire like grid's electricity rather than help anything.
I think that I think it was just a sign that his form was not good enough to match the other mids in head to head. And again, I'm not talking about just Showmaker, but like I think even Larson and Perks were able to get the better of him repeatedly. So then like if you can't win straight up, then you got to try something else, which is so sad because of how good his domestic split had been. And then when Doomby doesn't perform, that entire team falls apart, I think.
Yeah, it's also his like domestic performance was like way better than what we've seen before.
Yeah,
like his was way better than what we'd expected. So it's surprised when we got to the main stage that he just kind of opted out to it. Like Malzahar and stuff, I was just like, all right, well, nice pick, but why?
Yeah,
he got Lee Sin pentakill earlier in the year against a good team, and then we get to Worlds. He's like Galio and Malzahar only. I don't want to have hands today. I don't know. I think something went on with that team. To me, that felt like mental boom, right? That felt like this is a team that is not... They didn't play anything like they played domestically. It didn't look like the same. Like, if you took off the nameplates, I would have happily believed that was not FPX. If you showed me them in the semifinals of LPL versus them at Worlds, I would not believe it was the same team, right? Aside from some of the picks. So, I don't know what happened with FPX. I don't know how that team collapsed quite as spectacularly as they did, but I am curious to see what happens to that team moving into next year, because I have a feeling that there's going to be some big roster changes happening with FPX. So, I don't know. Kind of a sour note for an incredible year.
That sounds fine.
Yes, please.
Yeah, we miss him.
We'll see if anyone can afford his buyout, but I imagine
his contract ends by the end of the year.
Oh, does it really?
Already?
Oh,
was he only 12 months?
Ah, shit.
I thought it was 2 years. Oh shit. Very interesting.
Well, we'll see. Maybe Nuggery's enjoyed LPL. He is a bit of a chaotic player himself, so I will say he vibed well with the league. I feel like he fit in pretty well with some of the other lunatics.
I think he said in an interview with Ashley Kang, he was like, I actually really like this region. It's like just try to fight all the time. Like I'm constantly able to do what I want. Like I think he said he really enjoyed it. So I don't know.
I heard that he was having a bit of like issues settling into life in China, or was that just a rumor?
I don't know.
I don't know. It's perfectly possible because
for a little while because he wasn't feeling it.
He was benched for a couple of I think it was only for one best of 3, but it was their only best of 3 for the week. But I don't know if I ever saw. I know that it wasn't like gameplay based, right? I know it was like a personal thing within the team. I never found out the actual reasoning behind what that was. But yeah, I don't know. We'll see. It's very possible.
I think that's the hardest part for like us is like we don't actually have a huge amount of connections on like Chinese side. So like trying to find information on that is like super hard. And we don't like read Chinese or understand Chinese, so we can't just go on a Weibo and try and find out.
Yeah, and it's especially hard when you're doing everything remotely as well. So you're not in contact with like any people that can translate or anything like that.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
Yeah, it must be really, really tough.
Yeah,
because we have a bit of that as well. But at least like I can corner Cloud Templar at LOL Park and be like, let's broken English talk about this with just a little bit of Korean that I can somewhat speak sometimes, you know, like, and we can try and work it out. Like that happens, but like I'm not going to be able to like message him on Twitter. He doesn't have a Twitter, you know. I'd need to like make a Naver account and find where he is and do all of the Korean social media stuff that I don't really understand. So
what actually
makes it easier.
So 2 random slight tangents here off that. So first off, what is Korean social media? Because I have no idea. Because I've seen them on Twitter and Twitch and stuff.
It's mostly Instagram in Korea, I'm pretty sure. But there's also like a lot of blogging. It's like a little bit different as far as like you don't necessarily choose a platform. It's just, I don't know, it works a little bit differently here. You can go and share stories on different platforms about different stuff all the time. So a lot of Koreans have a lot of different things that they use. Okay. But there's also like for streaming, there's Afrika TV as well as Twitch, as well as YouTube, I guess. But Afrika TV is used a lot by a lot of the streamers here if they're not using Twitch based on sponsorships and stuff like that.
Okay, interesting. I was just curious because I just suddenly realized like the world of Chinese social media is so dramatically different to the West. I've never even. I kind of assumed that Korea uses the same as the West, which turns out mostly true, it seems, with Instagram, but kind of different tools.
And
they
also
are very
separate. The chatting that they use as well is all Kakao. And so Kakao dominates kind of everything. It's sort of like what Weibo is over in China.
Yeah.
But it isn't as much social media as it is like a messaging platform and payment system.
More like WeChat kind of thing.
Yeah, WeChat. Sorry, yeah.
Okay, interesting. Yeah, it's always weird to see how the different countries have these different networks set up and the different integration. I'm going down a rabbit hole. I'm sorry. I'm a bit of a tech nerd. I find this stuff really interesting. Anyway, the other tangent I wanted to go on a slight one. How good is your guys' Korean? Because Chronicler, I know you and I have spoken a few times. You've been having Korean lessons all year. Korean. Like, how's that going? Are you fluent now? Can you order a meal at a restaurant? Can you go on a date with someone? Can you what's the extent of your Korean here?
I can read decently now. Reading, not understanding, but like read Hangul. I can order stuff. I can understand very basic things. I know the days of the week, numbers, you know. Mm-hmm. That's I think as far as it goes. And then outside of that, like words, very basic sentences.
Okay. So like kind of structural stuff, but not conversational yet.
Yeah, I can understand a bunch of stuff, and I've got a few things in my brain, but I can't speak Korean yet either. Mm-hmm. Like Chronicler and I did level 1 together, but we've only finished level 1, right? Hoping to start level 2 in December, but we're not going to be able to cast Worlds and learn Korean at the same time.
Yeah.
So we
one
call
of them would be really shit, or both of them
took a
would
break.
be really shit.
Yeah, probably both.
Yeah. So we'd either fail our course or lose our job. So have to figure out which one we'd prefer. And so I think
they're pretty both very high on the priorities, right? I think it would be a tough choice that. Losing the esports stream versus losing a repeatable course, they are very similar.
I really couldn't wrap my head around it, so I had to postpone one of them. Otherwise I would have just done it, and just flogged off the one I didn't care about.
Yeah. Did you ever try Korean before, Atlus, during the time you've been in Korea, or is this the first stab you've had at it?
I had a bit of a crack with a tutor and things like that. But I've been with my partner over here for about 4 years now, and she speaks fluent English, and so it makes it very difficult to have the motivation to learn more Korean. Like the only reason now that I'm like really putting in a bit more effort is because I realized, holy shit, if we get married, I'm gonna have to talk to her parents, and family and all this sort of stuff. So that makes it feel a little bit more like a necessity than it did in the past. Because like living in Korea without speaking Korean is actually very easy. It's too easy. It's frustratingly easy at this point for commentators. For Wolf, for Valdez, for even, I mean, Doa and Monty, it was, Monty doesn't really speak very much Korean, but Doa's much better. And those guys, it was almost like you had to speak the language, otherwise you were fucked. Yeah. But for us, when we came over, there were a lot of things put in place to, you know, deal with, you know, foreign commentators and things like that. Like when I first got here, there was Jeannie, who was our producer at OGN, and she'd gone to school in Britain for like 8 years. She's got like this adorable little British accent coming out of a tiny Korean girl, and it was really cool. I landed, I'm like, what? Okay. Also, like, because she's like speaking Korean to the taxi driver and then turns to me with a British accent, and so I'm like, I don't know where I am.
You turn up at the airport, she's like, hello, governor.
Yeah, right. But yeah, so it was much easier for us. So I sort of like, I don't know, I feel guilty about this because I should have learned Korean. My dad's like, why aren't you speaking the language, Max? I'm like, because I'm bloody speaking English to everyone that I know in this place, you know. And so like I can go and like order dinner anywhere. I can buy whatever I'd like from, you know, a shop or an outlet, and I can just get by with the Korean that I know. But it's not good enough, and I can't have a conversation, and I should be better, but I'm not. So there we are.
Yeah. We're kind of in the same boat where we know a few words, but
we just get by with Jugga, which is just like that. So I just point to Jugga.
Jugga. And also Misha, which means like, it means don't worry about it, basically.
Like, don't worry, no worries. But we only, like, I only found out this year how to actually say no. So basically, anytime someone asked me a question that was yes or no, it was just like, no worries, no worries. They're like, what the fuck?
Which is like not in the right context. It doesn't work like no worries in English. And they'd all just kind of have a confused look as we slowly walk backwards out of the shop and then leave. And, Misha.
Yeah, the Chinese we have is like basics, like 1 to 10 in numbers. This, that, hello, Dongyi Sha, which is like, wait a minute, as I take out my Google Translate to tell you what I actually want to say.
and then remember that Google doesn't work here.
Yeah, and then I got taught how to call someone a silly dick. So that's also my vocabulary. So that's like the surrounding Mandarin that I have.
Yeah, I don't know. I get really awkward when I'm not able to speak the language. So I'm very frustrated that my Korean isn't better yet, but also it's not really realistic to expect to learn a language in a year when you're working full time. So
yeah, that's the only reason I didn't learn Mandarin as well. Only reason.
Me too. How was I supposed to learn Korean in 4 years with plenty of time off? You know, how is it ever, like, come on, guys. It's not like it was ever going to be possible. So I'm about where I'm supposed to be right now.
I will say, I don't have the same level of guilt that Chronicler does because I'm British, and my ancestors have built a long, healthy reputation of going to other places and talking English slowly and loudly until people understand what you say.
So one of my favorite things,
lean into that.
When we were back in the apartment, right, you'd order like off of a food delivery service or whatever, and Joe would just answer the phone and clearly had not a lick of Chinese, so he would just speak English to the man. It's like, yeah, I know it's terrible, isn't like just no Chinese.
Well,
he
was just talking Chinese to me. He's doing the exact same thing. So you might as well.
Like 5-minute conversation. Yeah, some guy on Chinese on one end, and Joe just speaking English, and neither willing to just hang up the fucking phone. So you just listen to this conversation for like 5 minutes, these two going at each other.
You can fumble about and you can try and explain that you don't speak Chinese, but at the same time, they don't understand me saying I don't speak Chinese, and they just say another Chinese sentence. So at that point, you can either hang up the phone or you can just have a laugh and lead into it and just pretend that you're having a conversation and take it in turns to speak random sentences. And so I choose to go for the latter.
Language exchange, I think we call that. Yeah. It's very nice.
As the only person who speaks a completely irrelevant language globally, I have had the.
I speak Irish, so no.
Okay, good point. Good point. Actually, that's true. Honestly, though, isn't there still like I'd imagine there's still more people that speak Irish? Actually, no, because there's Belgium.
Most
as well.
people in Ireland don't even speak Irish.
Oh, there you go. Well, you win then, Rob. I have no I was like, but based on that, I'd expect to be moderately better. But as it turns out, Korean is really fucking hard. It's very fun to learn, but it's also
it's not hard. It's just completely different. That's the thing because it's like you can't just liken a word to another word, right? Like you learn Italian and it's like sto confuso. I wonder what that means.
Yeah, but
we know what that means. That's fine,
But that is still hard. Like for me,
is it?
Right? Like I get that. Like maybe objectively, if you're Japanese, it's probably not. Or Chinese is probably a way easier language to learn. But
Japanese, Chinese is actually really hard because the sentence structure is completely different.
Well, yeah.
Chinese
I mean, I don't know. It's really fun. It's been a great experience, but also I hate it.
I guess
and I want to get better.
There's an extent to which anything without aggressive throat sounds is going to be a challenge for you, right?
Well, yeah, I do love my aggressive throat sounds. It's why I like both my German and my Dutch sound so lovely and natural.
Yeah, maybe you should take whatever it is that you get stuck in your throat. Why don't you just take it out to learn Korean and then put it back in when you're speaking whatever you're speaking?
Listen, if I want to talk about Scheveningen and what a great city it is, I will. Okay,
yeah, so and then
as a Dutch man.
Okay, I'm gonna transition us now to Group B because that is the end of our conversation about Group A.
All right, good.
Very, very smooth segue. So again, another group, by the way, where Korea completely dominated. T1 only losing a single game on a 4-win streak as they finished the group. But LPL actually made it out of this group, and I think EDG looked decent, aside from the games where they didn't, which is pretty much EDG in a nutshell. I will say, though, this was, I think, a much easier group than Group A, but also 100 Thieves, I think, way overperformed in this group. Like, I think 100 Thieves going 3-3. Like, I think NA as a whole region, obviously, performed way better than I think a lot of people were expecting coming into this Worlds. The fact that the worst scoreline was the team that made it through to quarterfinals in the end, and the other two teams went 3-3. I think this is a tremendous year for North America. But like, what were your guys' big takeaways from this group? Because I know as an LPL commentator, I didn't watch that much LCK. I know Chronicler was very mad at me on the internet because I kept on saying that Damwon was the only Korean team. And he kept on reassuring me that T1 was going to come and smash people and that Genji wasn't something to be sniffed at and all of this, right? And then it turns out T1 came and smashed people. And EDG came second. So I ate a little bit of humble pie. But what did this group go exactly how you guys were expecting? Anything out of the ordinary to you as LCK guys?
Well, with everyone that was like so high on the LPL for some reason, that sort of infected me. And so I thought EDG were going to be the best team in the group.
Same.
But I should have just gone with what I knew, which was that Korea has all the best teams, and then voted for the best team in the group. Like, I was an idiot. I let myself be influenced by dumb people on the internet called Munchables.
I'm really good at tweeting in capitals. Capitals work.
Yeah. No, but
if there's anything I learned from Trump,
I think that EDG definitely underperformed to the level that they were supposed to. And like with the amount people were talking up Viper and Mako, they were half as good as what I was expecting. And I've watched both of these players play exceptionally well. I know how well Mako plays with Korean AD carries. He's been doing it his entire career. The guy's been subbed out twice or something like that on EDG since 2014. Like, the guy's insane.
Yeah.
So extra. Like, I mean, ever since FCZF left, right?
His Thresh
unbelievable play.
Beautiful.
Yeah. Alistair has been amazing for like 6 years. Like, just never stopped being extremely good. Like, I think it's just very sad that even the best part of EDG couldn't demonstrate exactly how good they were. Because although, Viper and Mako had some good games, they were, well, I guess not yet have they shown us what they're capable of.
Yeah. We certainly didn't get the Viper that in the LPL finals literally 1v4'd FPX, right?
Yeah.
Like, we've seen some bonkers moments from Viper across the year, and it didn't feel like we got to see quite that much from him in groups. I will say as well, Mako, never play Lulu again. Ever.
No, he should never play Enchanter supports ever.
Don't play Enchanter supports. Just leave him up
Yeah.
for the LCK bot lanes so they can have perma prio and win lane. That'd be great.
That's what I was gonna say. Like, the big thing when I was looking at EDG was like Mako was kind of like the really good engage tool, and then Viper, he would set them up, Viper would knock them down. But like when you're playing these Enchanter supports, it just didn't really fit. And also I think for Viper, like things like MF, you can have the really nice ults, but it's not really like the massive playmaker that you kind of expect Viper to pop off on. So I don't know. It just doesn't really feel like EDG have really slotted into the style they want to play in this meta.
I actually think that's a really big problem for LPL teams as a whole. Whereas LCK teams, I don't think are as reliant on their supports being engaged. If you look at like what makes them strong, because Carrier can play everything. Like you could put Carrier in the mid lane, he'd probably be better than like, I don't know, 70% of the mid lanes at Worlds, if not more. And then if you look at Life, he's a history of playing a lot of enchanters. Barrel obviously really likes them if he's not put on engage. And I do think that LCK teams thus far have been a lot better at actually playing well around that. Barring some mistakes. You have like the Lulu Aphelios game where Rogue almost bopped Dom one. But I do think that if I think about Ming and Mako, what makes them so insane is how they impact the map and the engages that they find. Mm-hmm. And if they're suddenly put on Lulu, then your team needs to know how to kind of pivot away from that.
Yeah.
Which I think LPL teams are probably like, I expect whichever LPL teams makes it through to get to finals still. I think they will adapt. I think they will actually be able to do well. But like Atlus, I also was very happy to see that, and even now people are still kind of undercutting the fact that LCK topped 3 out of 4 groups and our 8th place team made it out of a group, and like also made RNG look less strong than I think they were supposed to be. Although that also argues depending on how you feel about RNG, because I've heard obviously like Lyric is really big on them. But then I've heard other people that aren't really as big a fan of it. I'm just happy to see T1 do as well as they do. I think individually those players are nuts. I think you could even argue that in some positions the players individually are actually, no, you can't. You can't argue that they're individually better than Dumb. Never mind. That's a dumb thought. I abandon it. Maybe on bot side.
I do that a lot. Where I get halfway through.
On bot side, you can. Yeah.
Like,
no, on bot side you can, but you can't say it on top side because Dumb is the best top side in the tournament.
Yeah. The reason that like the two teams that I was looking at to do relatively well from LPL were FPX, because I thought, okay, cool, this is a team that can like play both styles, right? We can see them play bot, we can see them play top, and like if whatever style you want to play in the game, you can play towards it. Now, obviously, they shit the bed, but the other team I was looking at was RNG, because it's like, hey, look, you've got like more pressure going topside traditionally with this team. They have a really good roaming support, and then as long as you can get Cryon and things like the Twisted Fate, they can actually play the game relatively well. So I think that's why a lot of people are kind of high on it. But I think RNG will get found out fairly quickly once teams just ban out Cryon and they're like, well, now he just loses the lane phase and we're in trouble. But the reason that I was worried about EDG was when I saw teams starting to play towards top a little bit more, like they don't play towards Flandre. Flandre has just been left on an island forever. And they started to play a little bit towards him in playoffs and it looked okay. But I think we're starting to see the cracks in Worlds where it's like they don't fully know how to play around them and it's starting to cause issues.
Yeah. I will say as well.
It's like, oh, sorry, you go first, man.
You go. You're the guest. I get to chat shit on the show every week.
I mean, you're the LPL guy, so me talking about it doesn't really make as much sense. I also think one of the reasons why RNG should be definitely one of the teams that you're looking at is because they've been the most internationally successful, least choky team forever. Like, there's never really been a time where they haven't been the best of the shitters when it comes to the teams that were like just choking every time. Like, I need to ask the question, right? Yep. So far, just coming out of groups, is this worse or better than 2015? Like, it's a serious question. Like, I don't know whether this is
like
more
I'm
or less
qualified to answer
disappointing.
that because I was not an LPL guy in 2015. I was a random punter.
How can we merge
fanboy.
our brains together so we can have all of the disappointment at the same time together, and then weigh who's more disappointed?
Combined, we can have enough disappointment to rule the world.
Yeah. Do
you want to be Pinky or the brain?
Difficult. Well, I'm definitely not the brain, but I do have one of these, so maybe that's me.
Oh, there we go. That's solid. I'm just as bald as him almost, so that works out.
Got him.
Yeah, I would say certainly FPX comparably disappointing. But we kind of talked at length about that earlier.
Yeah,
I would make the argument that FPX, especially in this, I don't think LPL as a region. Like, I think if you remove FPX, I don't think LPL as a region has been that disappointing because we've got a first seed and a second seed out of the groups. And like LNG, my expectation was group stage, and it's like a stretch goal. If they can make quarterfinals, that's great. But it's not.
Honestly, I'm surprised they looked as good as they did. I was worried they wouldn't even make it into groups. Like, I did not have high hopes for them. Like, there was a lot of times where, like, it depended on if we got playoffs LNG or if we got regular split LNG. And at least in play-ins, we got kind of playoffs LNG. And then very quickly, we teetered into regular season LNG coming into groups. Like, they looked pretty atrocious. Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, I don't think it's still better than 2015, where, as you say, we got 2 teams out, and at least we're still talking about how viable they could be, right? Rather than, I was just looking there in 2015, it was just EDG who got out. So, and then they got
smashed by Fnatic, I think.
Yeah. I think the LPL team makes finals, but I don't think they'll win.
Actually,
Which other team? T1 or?
No, I mean
assume
EDG or RNG.
Oh, I have no clue. The fun thing for me going into Saturday's matchup is that I don't really have a grasp on how these two teams, because I've seen games of them, right? But like I haven't followed them all split. I don't really have a grasp on how these two teams play. I think safer money is on RNG, but I think if EDG is actually good, they're better, if that makes sense. I think over the line, RNG I'd expect to do well, but maybe people stop falling for Krine's mind control and he doesn't get TF like happened in the LPL playoffs, and then he actually has to play champions that requires hands, and then Scout should murder him.
Yeah, that's what I see happening. Like, I think EDG come out because I'm just like, I think Crine is just going to get found out so quickly. And we haven't actually seen much for RNG, right? Because in playoffs, they lost to LNG fairly quickly. And then they, like, played in the regional qualifiers. And, like, yes, they had good games against WE in that. But, again, I think once you get them off Twisted Fate or Galio, it's just like, okay, well, now they have no map pressure and Xiao who's easier to contain, and we're all good.
I think it's a really interesting question asking about, like, which LPL team's going to make it. Because my initial thought when we got the group draw was like incredible excitement, because my dream at the very beginning of Worlds was if there's going to be an EDG versus Damwon final, hell yeah, everything's going to be fine. Because EDG like looked so good in the LPL. It was so much fun. And the idea of this like bottom heavy team versus this top heavy team facing off to determine who's got the best meta read and who has the best team structure for this meta and all that sort of stuff, like which one's going to be able to come out on top. The thing that I'm really worried about, though, is now having a look at their run up, right? Assuming Gen G beats C9, which is it's not a comfortable assumption, but I'm going to assume that because I think that it's probably 60-40 in favor of Gen G. I kind of think that if it's RNG versus Gen G, RNG wins. But I don't know whether EDG beats Gen G, because I feel like Gen G's kind of built to deal with other bottom side centric teams, because Ruler and Life have been so good at dismantling that their entire careers, right? So I think that it's like, I don't know, this odd like mismatch, because I think that EDG are a better team than Gen G, but I just feel like if Gen G's going to win, it's going to be against EDG and not RNG.
Interesting. So let me give you my counter take, and then Rob can correct me if I'm totally wrong.
Oh yeah, go.
Because he's cleverer than I am. So I would say that I don't think that. So I think Gen G, it's possible that they win laning phases and things, right? But I don't think that BDD versus Scout is massively one-sided in either direction. I don't think that the bot lane is massively one-sided in either direction, right? I think we have, as we've already discussed, exceptional talent in all of those roles. And I think, obviously, as you're saying, the top side is like not really going to be the focus in this one. They can lock in on for all I care and just go for the late game. Because realistically, these games would go long. I do think that when EDG struggles, it's usually teams that are going to dive bot over and over again, try and hard focus Viper, and then snowball aggressively and end the game as fast as possible. If it goes really long, which in my experience, and I could be wrong on this one, maybe you guys can correct me, but every Gen G game I've seen is like 50 plus minutes. Like, I feel like EDG is real fucking good at that stuff. Their team fighting is fucking beautiful. Yeah. Like, the way that they play the late game is insane.
Yeah, I kind of agree. I think that it's important to make a distinction between Gen G against good teams and Gen G against bad teams, because I always get really frustrated when people call Gen G slow. When, like, Gen G is one of the stompiest teams in LCK when they play against teams that are worse, which is why I actually expect them to do really well in groups, which they did.
Yeah.
Is because when they're against a team that worse than them, like, they don't fuck around. They just kill them really quickly. Like, the average game time is really, really good. The problem, and this is also why I do agree with you, Munch, I don't think that Gen G would necessarily do very well, is that in longer games, a lot of the less proactive tendencies kind of come to fruition. And I don't even think that in terms of team fighting, they'll get outfought. But I think it's pretty easy to be like faster on rotations, to set up vision better than they do, to like their actual team fighting, I think is really good. But their setup has been very lackluster at times. And I think that they don't have the kind of killer instinct that Donmon has, and it's always right. And then T1 also has the killer instinct, but it's a bit more of a, it's not as accurate as Donmon's, I'd say. But for T1, like, I'd still take them over Gen G in that situation. Yeah, but Gen G is like, I get C9, they should just win based on hand stiff, honestly. I think individually the players are just much better.
I just want to bounce off your point. I think for EDG as well, they've been really good at punishing teams that are like slow in rotations or not good at setting up vision. Like Flandre is insane at finding really good flanks. Their team fighting always looks pretty good. They're very quick on engages and that. So like if you end up in a situation, they're very like comfortable with playing a slow game. They don't mind just like, hey, we're just going to farm it out. We're going to use scout to put pressure bot. We'll pick up a couple of dragons, use pressure to get mid pressure to get herald, and work our way slowly through objectives until we get to team fights. So I think if you end up in a situation like that against Gen G and you're not keeping pace with them to objectives, that's where you're going to struggle.
Yeah, it's actually it's an interesting point, because EDG did only look bad when they didn't have tempo advantage early. They just looked like they had no idea how to get the game back in a rhythm that they understood. You know, it's like they play Guitar Hero, and as soon as they miss a note, they're like, oh, fuck this song. I'm out. I'm done.
That's me.
This is the worst. And it doesn't, like, they never really figure out how to, like, get the beat back and get back to strumming. And I think you might be right that Gen G is not going to be a team that allows that to happen. However, if EDG are moving too quickly, that's when Gen G is very, very happy to punish, because Gen G are very good at seeing something that the opponent does and then getting an advantage because they saw a mistake, right? But if the opponent's not doing anything, Gen G's not doing anything either. And then nothing happens for 60 minutes. And then someone insert an Elder Dragon and the game's over. That's why everyone hates watching Gen G games. And Gen G has this crazy ability to bring teams down to their dumbass slow pace level as well.
The turtling is actually really good.
They're like the anti-IG. They're like the opposite of
they
IG.
not only turtle, but they also polymorph their opponent into a turtle as well. You know, like they did ZG. They managed to get that book. They bought it off the auction house, and they're not sheeping people anymore. Like, we're turtling everyone, and it's just not okay.
They're literally the slow IG, whereas IG brings everyone down to their ridiculous just fight every minute of every second. Wait, every minute.
And that's why we love IG. That's
right?
why IG's a good team.
And if you want macro-based turtling League of Legends, Gen G is the team for you. I realize how we started this conversation with Chronicler saying, I want to clarify, Gen G is not just a slow team. And then we finished this conversation with the conclusion that Gen G is the slow team.
Not just, right? Like, I think
They're not slow
it's...
when they know that they're way better than their opponent.
Yeah.
If they respect their opposition, they get too scared to do anything. I think that's what Mao's point was. Like, we saw, like, Gen G were picking scaling all year long and smashing teams at 20 minutes with Jinx's ear. Like, it just happened all the time.
I think...
sorry. Yeah, you go... No, I don't know. Gen G... Like, people's perception of Gen G is worse than it should be, because when push comes to shove, they win a lot, right? Like, you can criticize the team all you want. It's not pretty. It's like boxing for points instead of trying to go for the knockout, right? Like, people, which I think it's fair to not like Gen G as a team, which I don't love casting them, right? Like, they're kind of in a weird space where it's really easy to love Damwon. It's very easy to love Hanwha, just as Max. Damwon is self-explanatory, but Gen G's like in a weird position. But people have kind of taken that to mean that they're bad, and they're not. Like, they're at generally any point in the current roster, they're a top 8 team in the world, which in of itself is fucking nuts. They're
not bad.
hard to love.
You just don't like them. Yeah,
yes,
that's the thing.
Exactly.
Like, do you know what they are?
It's not
so
exciting.
Gen G, in a lot of ways, are like the Icelandic team in Mighty Ducks. You know, when the Mighty Ducks they go to the international event, they're up against Iceland, and they're all these like robotic thugs that are just the essence of playing good League of Legends. You know, but no one likes them. They're the bad guys. Like, Gen G are like the bad guys in every game that they play. It's so sad.
But they still win.
They're like the Swedish. They're like the Swedish bobsleigh team in Cool Runnings.
Yeah.
It's just kind
they're
of
like Act 2 of every sports movie, you know, where the main character team loses. You know, like, that's what they are. That's when they win, you know, and you know that it's like Act 3. You know, we're at the conclusion, the feel good moment where all of the nice music's happening when they lose.
Wins. Yeah. Right. I feel like I have a much better handle on Gen G now. That's a great.
You get it on a deep level. You now understand this team.
They are the baddies. It's like that scene off of the Mitchell and Webb look. All right, so I mean, I guess we've kind of transitioned into predicting the quarters as opposed to just looking through the groups, which I'm kind of okay with, honestly, because the other two groups, let's be honest, really chaotic.
You didn't give Atlus the chance to talk about Hanwha. I know he wants to. I know he might not ask himself, but I know he really wants to.
Tell me about how incredible Morgan is. Whisper sweet nothings in my ear.
Morgan's bad, but the team is very lovable.
All right, guys, thanks very much for tuning in for another episode of Bevvies With The Boys.
No, but they came to Worlds with 2 bad players, and when they got there, they had only 1 bad player.
Yeah,
that was great. Will is actually good, like legit good. It doesn't make sense.
No,
like, we were watching him inch his way towards like through the gauntlet, you know, with Chovy and Deft carrying him like by the scruff of his neck, and then he got to Iceland and he's like, I'm a Viking now. Allow me to take everyone down. Like, it was beautiful. I don't know what happened to Willa, but he's definitely done. There's something in the Icelandic water for the boy. He's certainly done well.
Also, I want people to stop saying Chovy Life Esports, because Def does so much lifting on that team. Like, and it's just...
I mean, he was carrying them since they started the gauntlet. So the whole, but like, Chovy's stats are really great though, Mao. So you look at the stats and you know that he must be doing everything on the team.
No.
Stats are what? Stats decide everything. That's how you know whether a team's good.
I'm just gonna say 2 words or 3 words.
Go.
Mojo.
40% IE. That's all I've got.
Yeah, Deft. Yeah. It's so, like it's so. This is something that's a pet peeve of mine in general. I get so fucking annoyed at how people like tunnel on items, because a player can obviously, like, it's a mistake. It's stupid, right? Like, it's objectively the wrong call. But I think that itemization errors are something that people love to over-index on, and then they completely ignore the actual game, because I think there are very few games that are lost. Like, there's many games that could be in a better place, right? But like people love to focus on it because it makes them feel smart and better. And I'm not talking about like people that actually do the math and are like, again, it's fine to say that the build objectively is bad, but it's one of those things where people have just started using it in every situation and like completely foregoing the context of the game. And if you look at the game, that was carrying by far the hardest in the entire game. But everyone's going to remember that he did a stupid item build.
So I fully agree with you on the item point. Dagda can attest. I complain about this all the time.
Yeah.
That one specific instance, though, I do think was egregious enough to the point where actually it maybe made a difference in that game. Because, like you say, Deft was hard carrying that game. If he has items that are gold efficient, I legit think they can win some of those team fights. So I think they maybe win the game. I don't want to get down the rabbit hole on arguing about specifically Deft in this game.
No, I don't think.
I just wanted to poke fun at that because that one I think was maybe the most egregious mismanaged build I've seen, maybe even all year, honestly. Like, because IE is basically useless without 60% crit. Sorry, go on, Rob.
Bringing it back a second though, I think like the whole point is though, like Deft was carrying that game, right? And I think Deft has had like insane moments, and I think it does feel a bit disingenuous to be like, oh well, Jovi's doing everything, you know, where it's like Deft has actually been monstrous in team fights, and yes, he has his moments where he gets caught out, but like when you need him, he 9 times out of 10 performs.
Yeah, and he kind of looks like a llama, which
alpaca
or an alpaca. Yeah,
I don't know the difference between those.
They look exactly the same, so don't worry.
One of them's got a Disney
pretty
movie
much
about
the same animal,
and it ain't an alpaca. I'm just saying.
And actually, if you stretched out the neck of a sheep, also looks the same. Baby giraffe probably looks the same.
Speaking from experience, stretching out the neck of the sheep doesn't work out. All right,
no,
I don't want to go into it.
Roast,
Okay, so the conclusion is Hanwha Life actually better than people were expecting.
And I think
better than I was expecting. I had no faith.
Unfortunately, against T1,
they're going to win. Do you know what their record is against T1 over the last month or two?
No.
4-3. They've won more than they've lost against T1.
All right.
So I don't know.
So if anyone here is looking for a ticket for the hype train,
improved more
because the qualifiers went to
at
5
Worlds. Was it Hanwha or was it T1? T1 looks good. Always looked pretty good. Hanwha looks way better now. Already had a winning record.
So,
I don't know.
If you want a ticket to the hype train at Atlus TV on Twitter, that's where you can fish.
But honestly, for a long time.
Didn't the best of 5 for them for qualifiers went to 5 games, and it was relatively close, if I remember. And like if Hanwha are looking far better than they have at any other point in time, I could see it happening. Genuinely, they actually look like a team now.
Yeah. I don't know, man.
Okay.
I
feel like we're getting into dangerous levels of hopium here. This is like a T1-3.
I'm not on board with this. Just want to clarify. I think T1's going to stomp, but I would not mind being wrong. You know, there's not enough magic in this world. If Hanwha can,
so I also agree, and I think that it's way better for the LCK if T1 smash, like even if T1 smashes Damwon, that's better for the LCK, right? Because we want our most popular team to do well, because then everyone will watch our league. Like that's great. I want that. However, the thing that I really want is for people to congratulate T1 on their victory correctly if they do smash Hanwha, because it means a lot. Actually, if it looks really one-sided, it means that T1 have gotten a lot better than they were before they got to Worlds, right? And if T1 lose, I don't want people to be like, oh, they choked, they're terrible, because I think that it actually is almost a thing that we can see on the horizon right now, given the trajectory of these two teams. Because if you tried to plot a graph of improvement for Hanwha and you put T1 and Hanwha kind of together during their best of 5, like that graph has Hanwha being better than T1. Like that's because they've gotten what looks to be better, right?
Yeah. And as an LPL fan, I want Hanwha to win so that then nobody watches LCK and we steal all your viewers. So I'm on
Yes.
I mean, I remember when we went for that. So like everyone was watching the LCK and Champions like back in 2014. So we're like, well, we'll just take 50% of the players, and so surely people are going to watch the LPL now. And it didn't work. Like it's actually like what. There was like that one dude that didn't come to the LPL. His name was Faker. For some reason, that idiot stayed on SKT and then kept winning championships. But like, we took everyone else. Why weren't they watching us? Oh man, it's very frustrating. I assume the casters were just terrible. I don't know.
Yeah, I distinctly remember that year they were really shit.
Yeah. It was like, what was his name?
It's like Globe or something.
Papa Samson. I don't know. He used to cast the LPL. He was terrible.
Some of the Smurfs related anyway.
Spoons to Bully, I think his name was. Jacob Spoons to Bully. And that Max
increasingly
Anderson
weird, guys.
Yeah. Welcome to Bevvies With The Boys. This isn't even your first episode. How are you not expecting this?
And also, you know me. You were with me today. Like, come on, mate.
We had a really nice day. Yeah, it was great. Yeah. We had a nice lunch.
What did you guys get up to today? Yeah.
We went and got tested for COVID-19 today. It was a beautiful day.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
Lovely. Did you check for like 18 and 17 while you were there as well, or?
Yeah. What? 18 and 17? What?
Just
because it's not COVID-19. It's a bad lunch joke.
It wasn't very funny, but I did say it.
Yeah, damn. Look, very well done. I liked it.
I just
see. This is why we don't get the viewers much.
They come for a second, then that happens, and then they all leave.
Yeah.
They're immediately out of there. No, I like your jokes, Munch. I appreciate them for what they are.
That's very polite of you, but it's okay.
That sounded backhanded to me. I'm like, wow, come on. Are you like, are we getting spicy in here? Like, what's happening?
I'm never spicy, Atlus. You know this. This was like one of my favorite.
Accidentally. Like, you are accidentally sometimes, and it's cool.
That was one of my favorite highlights of World's casting so far. Was when I was casting with Wolf and Atlus. And like Jensen like flashed forward. I think it was in the game against LNG, and like because they needed to win that, right? And like he flashed forward to set up on LeBlanc to like set up a play, which was really good, right? Like it was necessary, but and my call was something like, yeah, it's really good to see TL and A teams in general play proactively while they still have a chance, instead of when they're being mathematically or already have been mathematically eliminated from the tournament. And like, I didn't even mean it as like
a solid minute. I think afterwards, I was too shocked.
Because like, that's not my thing. I don't like to slam teams, but I genuinely thought it was a compliment.
I mean, that is a compliment.
That's what made it so brutal. I don't know.
In that microscopic
it was like so
moment,
matter of fact.
It's a compliment to TL, right? But it's just also a massive slight on an entire major region. Is all, you know.
But it's true.
I mean, you're not wrong. I'm not disagreeing. I would have said that in a heartbeat, but
100 Thieves beat EDG the moment that like they're eliminated. They're like, oh well, let's beat EDG now. Okay, cool. I guess.
Yeah, it was definitely a hell of a group. All right, let's talk about the fourth quarterfinal as well. DK versus Mad. Now, I have a sneaking suspicion that the way that this podcast has been set up is LPL versus LCK. But there's a little part of me deep down that says that this may end up turning into EU versus KR for this next part of the podcast. Because I'm going to go ahead and assume that you guys might be favoring DK slightly for this one.
I mean, I don't think we need to talk about it, do we?
It's a free one for Damwon.
Like this one, it's a free one. A debate.
No, like as in it's a free one. Like Damwon ain't a draft because they're having too much fun, like they did in finals, and then they subsequently like legit they're going to. I guarantee you. Did you not see the C9 game where they drafted fucking Kassadin and they were going back in like 1v3?
They were already qualified in first seed at that point. To be fair.
I think they're going to interdraft as well, and I think it's definitely a 3-0.
Could be, yeah. I can see that as well.
All right,
Dagda. I think Damon's going to win Worlds. So like I
Dagda.
don't think anyone beats them.
Don't do it.
I need you to
strong.
slap them with
Don't
some
do it
Mad
to yourself.
Lions based analysis that's gonna knock them on their asses. Hit them with it, Dagda.
Yeah, and then delete the tweet afterwards.
So, look, Mad Lions are able to come back from a 10,000 gold deficit. I don't think Damwon are going to let them do that. So I think it's 3-0 Damwon.
Yeah.
I just want to remind you all of what happened at MSI. Mad Lions and Damwon went full 5 fucking games, and it was a banger series.
Yes,
Mad Lions
Munch.
were that close to fucking slapping their butt cheeks.
They lost. One of the games that they won was because Beryl walks into 5 people on vision at 45 minutes into the game as Nautilus.
Yeah.
I think that sounds like a brag, but that's not good play, I'm telling you.
Well, no,
he's going to be playing Yuumi now, and so they get to keep him under control.
True.
It's so easy.
He can play Genshin.
And even outside, I actually made that tweet. Even outside of that, like the form of Damwon was not just bad at MSI, and again, they were 1 game away from winning the whole fucking tournament. They got back to LCK, and they were promptly clapped for like 6 weeks. Right, like this team didn't look like they were gonna actually. No, MSI broke it. They were bad before that.
Yeah.
But currently they're playing really well. And like the top side gap is too big. The only possible opening you have is Ghost and Barrel. And Ghost and Barrel at the moment aren't playing bad. So I don't see it.
Okay.
Like top gap is
in my professional analysis, MSI starts with M and Mad Lions starts with M. So they're both tilted still the same.
True.
No, but I think the big thing for
they had the M buff. Unfortunately, and now like because
and
it's
like
DWG and the W is in Damwon. Oh no! So W buff.
Oh,
so they win Worlds again.
Did you say that their tri-code is the same as their name? That's true of every team on the planet.
No. I said that they have a W in their tri-code, and W is start.
But they don't
Worlds.
anymore because it's DK.
Yeah,
they're W-less, just like they will be in the series.
Seriously, though, I think for Damwon, the biggest thing that I saw from MSI that like I thought RNG did well was like, hey, I know we saw it a little bit, but I was looking at Con, I was like, this guy overextends quite a bit in lane when he like isn't getting pressure. If you're looking for cross maps, you can probably get it against him. But with Damwon playing like more heavily towards him, you just don't get the same opportunities to do that. And then as you guys are saying, like Ghost and Barrel look a lot better than they did going into MSI. So I think it actually is really tough to beat Damwon right now.
Yeah, we also have Canyon in a meta where he doesn't have to play Morgana or Rumble, so none of us have to look at that. And secondly, he can actually like 1v9 games again, right? Because I think it was just Khan and Showmaker that were carrying. Like Canyon wasn't actively bad like Beryl was, and Ghost was to a certain extent at MSI, but Canyon wasn't helping as much as he usually would because he was just not that good at either Morgana or
Rumble.
And also those champions weren't able to capitalize on how big Canyon's brain is.
Yeah.
Because they were definitely like where we easily speed clear everything. You don't need, like, if that champion is possessed by the player that you are, then you automatically clear 30 seconds faster than everyone else. So like the pathing is never actually a question mark with where the meta was at that point in time, especially in the case of Morgana, right? So like his strength was never something that they were able to actually leverage. I think the meta is way more Damwon favored than it has been. Even I'd almost argue that it's even better than last year, especially given the fact that it's now Khan up in the top lane instead of Noguri, and we've got a meta that is far more about mid jungle and mid always getting pressure and things like this. A lot of it has alleviated a lot of whatever the strain was on the top side of the map that Noguri was much better at dealing with. Khan doesn't have to worry about it too much, but he's still playing really well. Like, there are so many things that are pointing towards Damwon being much better than they were. And so, because we have so much faith, they're probably going to lose to the Mad Lions, but still, I don't think it should happen. Expectation should be that Damwon claps 3-0 and we all go home bored.
So I can see I'm not going to win this argument from an analytical perspective. But that's okay.
Welcome to my world. What are we really talking about, Munch? Let's go.
Have you considered
Star Guardians of French
that right now we're about to enter into the knockouts of a tournament in Europe, and we have a European team known as the Mad Lions going up against the Korean first seed in Damwon Kia. Now, Showmaker famously said in an interview on his way over to Iceland that EU West is filled with villains. He's already dealt with EU West solo queue at MSI. Now we've got a Worlds quarterfinal on the line and the only representative of Europe. Do you think that Damwon Kia's mental is going to be able to last these extra few days before the quarterfinal? Are they going to be able to survive EU West long enough to make it into this playoff match? I'm not so sure.
I really think that like mentally they must be really suffering. Like I think it's really hard to stay positive after 6-0 clapping your group.
Yeah,
like, I agree. It'd be really weighing on your mind. You know, it's like, oh no, we're so good. I'm sad because we're
suffering from success.
Where's
your eyes to dollar bills?
I'm upset because the world doesn't mean anything anymore because we're too good. Like, I don't think that there can be any mental strain.
No, I agree. Honestly, like, you know, it's the LCK is a one-team region anyway, and then Damwon only goes 6-0. Why were there no tiebreak? Why didn't they go 7-0? Right? Like, I don't know. Like,
that's how bad the other Chronicler.
I think people are like making excuses for them. Right? Like, come on, can't they do better?
That's true. I thought it was quite a disappointing performance as well.
I saw Kadro put up a video the other day, and like he's in a game with Showmaker, and he's just like running fucking down on top of him, lads. He was like, I don't give a shit if we win this game. We have to kill Showmaker as often, as many times as we can, just to piss him off for Mad Lions. It was actually brilliant.
I will say, like, even as someone who wants Mad Lions to win, I actually feel really bad for Showmaker playing in EU West because I play in Gold 2. And the players that are inting me aren't even doing it on purpose. They just fucking suck. Never mind actually entering into solo queue.
I don't think Showmaker plays in Gold 2.
No, I don't think he does. I think it's worse because every game he enters, everyone is actively sprinting. Like, what can you fucking do? How do you practice? That's gotta fucking suck.
Well,
man.
do you know what you do? You actually get another person to play your account instead. And then go on to a brand new account that no one knows about and actually practice. That's what you do.
I think
turn chat off. It's easy.
I think it's also a scenario where, like, if the situation were flipped, people wouldn't laugh about it at all. Like, imagine if players. I mean, I know you would, but I think the fandom at large wouldn't really. Like, it's kind of laughed about, and I think in some cases it is funny. Like, it is funny when Khan learns a new solo queue word, right? Like, I actually think that's legit hilarious. It's some of the best parts of World. Or, like, Teddy calls himself an insect for some reason because he's, like, upset at the absolute state of the game.
And the dude in solo queue's just, like, sad face.
I feel really bad for Teddy because I think he's fucking nuts. And he was one of the main reasons that Tin 1 did as well as they did in playoffs. And he hasn't seen play, which I respect, but I feel for Teddy. That said, yeah, no, I agree. I think he's better than Guma. But Guma, works well for how T1 play at the moment. But individually, Teddy is better. I don't even think that. I think we're generally in agreement with that when it comes to the whole LCK crew. Teddy's everything.
I think Wolf believes that Guma's better. I personally think that Guma might have a slightly stronger early game. But I think that Teddy's way too good in the late game for that to be worth making the sacrifice for, personally.
Yeah. But I don't like the part of league of like the league culture where it's like, haha, someone gets consistently target inted when he's trying to play the video game. Then again,
I think it's also like Europeans believing that Mad can't actually beat this team.
Yeah.
And so if they're trying to int Showmaker so that Mad Lions has a chance, then that's not good for anyone, right? It means everyone's tilted.
The most important thing is that clearly Showmaker does not give a flying fuck and channels his anger into stomping people harder because he's been the best mid at the tournament by a country mile so far. So, we'll take it.
I will say, like, there's a part of me that genuinely believes that even if Mad Lions were the favorites, Showmaker would still be target entered, because I've played video games competitively in Europe for as long as I can remember, and people have been toxic assholes in every single game, in every single tournament, in every single everything. It's just, I don't know, something about European gaming. They just love being assholes, and I relate to it, honestly. I'm not gonna go too much into that, but like...
so I came over for 2015 Worlds, right? And I was staying in London, and I brought my laptop with me, and so I transferred my account from, I think it was on NA at the time. It was sort of like my travel account. So like I had my account that I'd spent way too much money on, and then Riot gave me an account because I didn't want them to unlock everything on my account because it would nullify the way too much money I'd spent on the account.
Yeah.
So I just got a new one that I'd transfer around whenever I was traveling. And so I hopped on for a game. I remember this game. Like, I don't really remember all that much about 2015 Worlds, but I remember this one game of solo queue. It was the one game that I played in EU West. And I played Renekton top. I went 3-0, like hard smashed this guy. And then everyone else straight ran it down, and the entire team collectively blamed me for the loss.
Yeah, because you didn't carry, dude. You had a lead and you didn't carry.
Yeah, on, right. Bro. And I just, it was so ridiculous that I didn't even know how to respond. Like, normally I've got like a witty quip, that I can throw back. But like, this was just like, I didn't get it.
Yeah.
It's like they'd banded together because they knew I was the only one that could blame them for how shit they were. And so they were all collectively inting it the same way. They're like, we better bring him down, otherwise he might get mad at us. So quickly, together, boys, let's get him.
Yeah, apes so together strong.
I decided, yeah. And so I decided to just never play on that server ever again.
Yeah.
That was my tactic.
So I never really thought EUS was that toxic as an EUS player until I went and lived in America for a little bit. And then on the American server, I was playing AD carry, and my support literally just ran it down 3 times. Like, right from the start, they just, like, were sprinting it. Not intentionally, but they just sucked. And I remember typing at the time, being like, bro, can you just stop inting? Or whatever it was. Like, nothing particularly egregious. It wasn't a direct insult. It wasn't anything against the Summoner's Code, of course. I would never. But I remember the entire team, like, I had said this one sentence. The entire team agreed to report me after the game. They said I was this awful, toxic human being. Like, it was like I had, gone around and punched the guy's mother in the face. And I was like, wow.
Well, I mean,
I can't tell if
you
like...
definitely shouldn't have done that.
I realize, like, I shouldn't have insulted this guy, right? But at the same time, he was literally sprinting it. But, like, in EU West, that's, like, the tamest thing I could possibly have said. In America, that's like, you should be banned, which gave me a little bit of perspective on like how toxic EU West is. That is like totally acceptable behavior over here, but like totally unacceptable in other regions. I think that's like a good meter stick of the difference in culture there.
I think the Korean solo queue is also pretty toxic, but it's very different. Like, Korean solo queue to me feels like it's hyper competitive and people want to win. And if you do anything that they think takes you away from winning, they'll run it down, not because they think you deserve it, but because they think the game is lost. And they're just like, I'm done. Go right? Next. And that motivation actually changes a lot. Whereas in EUS, people are like, they don't mind your gameplay. They fucking hate you, the person. Like, they think you're a fucking piece
you get on
of
Cap's
shit.
list.
Like, you personally, I'm gonna fucking spite you to make you feel like a trap. That's like, it's much darker. It's much more personal. Yeah.
I love Korean solo queue because I have no idea what they're saying. It's all just squares because I've got the client in English.
Save a Chinese solo queue.
Beautiful.
Everyone just fucking fights like crazy, and you definitely get flamed, but it's all boxes. So who gives a fuck?
Yeah.
Every so often I get the phone out for the Google Translate and be like, what does that actually say? I'm like, all right.
And then you immediately regret
it. Yeah. Well, no, because half the time it doesn't even make sense. It's like, you are a cow that fell down river and reborn. And you're like, I don't even know what that means. Like, what is that?
Thank you very much. It's very kind of you.
What was the famous? There was some famous quotes of like Koreans. I think this was a Korean one. The "Your mum go sky" was a good one.
Yeah.
I think that might have
Or
been a
boom.
translation issue. But I don't know, because I think there's also a lot of like Korean and Chinese players that try to flame each other, but know that there is like a complete language barrier there, which has borne some pretty ridiculous insults as well.
I think the best one, the most common, like when a Chinese player recognizes that you're not Chinese, right? When they realize that I'm English in Chinese solo queue, they stopped typing in Chinese and would call me dog. Dog is like the universal "you're fucking shit" in China. So none of them, or very few of them, could actually speak English well enough to insult me. But they knew that I knew that dog was like "fuck you," basically.
Jesus.
So they'd all stop typing in Mandarin and just type dog. Which was like, that was when you knew you'd had a bad game. That was when you knew.
What if you responded with cat?
I'm not sure that the depth of English was at that
if
level.
they know dog, surely they'd know cat. You know?
Maybe.
And if that doesn't work, maybe like lock in bird. And just see whether you can have an animal conversation and take it away from your terrible League of Legends. Distract them with animals. And maybe shapes and things like that.
Distract them with old MacDonald.
I actually that was my strategy. Did you ever watch Sky Williams' famous DST video?
Yes.
DST stands for dick sucking theory.
Yeah.
It was, oh man, it changed my life. Realizing that you could just literally ride your opponents to wins by getting their ego so high that they want to win the game. That's the most important thing in League of Legends, because if your teammates actually want to win, half the time you do, because the other team is busy flaming each other. It's beautiful. And so you just use DST to keep the other 4 players playing well, and then I could literally just have stumps for hands.
You can play Yuumi.
And it doesn't matter. I just play Yuumi and prowl some projectiles with my stumps, and we win the game because I'm unnecessary, because I have 4 players that actually want to win. It's just beautiful.
Yeah.
Big fan of the theory.
I have used that theory. I have also employed that theory, and it does work. I just don't have a strong enough mental to consistently employ that theory. I turn chat off.
The best way to do it is to take all ego out of your ability to play the game and put all of your ego into the ability to manipulate people. That's what you do.
For fuck's sake, Max, that's so dark.
Dude, you'd fit in the US, actually.
We're manipulating for the good of these people. You know?
Is that
like a dictatorship. Hang on, wait a sec. That's not good. A tyrannical ruler.
Is that it? That's the line you want to take.
Yeah, no, maybe that's not the line. But I mean, it is in this case. We know that everyone in that game wants to win.
So the conclusion,
so we are working towards a common goal.
True.
The ultimate conclusion here is that Atlus believes, Showmaker is the Hulk, and the Atlus believes that the end justifies the means. I think those are the two significant conclusions.
I mean, it does depend on the means. Come on. If the means is being nice to some people in solo queue, then yes, because I think that the means are just as good. It's it's just all a good time, you know.
Good stuff. Okay, so let's. So that's Group C anyway. So we've kind of talked about the quarterfinals already.
We did.
And now we talk about Group D. Can I just analyze Group D for you just for 1 second?
Yeah. Hit me with it.
Do you have a is there such thing as a 4-sided dice? Is that possible? Because that's basically
it's
what
it's like a triangular pyramid.
It's a triangle. Have you not played D&D, Atlus?
I mean, I did, but I don't know how many sides 3D objects have.
There you go. There's a D4.
Oh God, you're such
roll
a
it, Rob.
Thank you so much.
Do you want me to roll
it, Rob? Roll it.
So if you roll that a bunch of times, and then whichever ones come out in each order, that's Group D. I think absolutely any team could have won or lost that group.
I don't even
think
really that Group D is the weakest group. I think Group C was actually weaker than Group D.
Yeah, I'm not saying like who's stronger or weaker. I just thought that like everyone in that group could have won, could have lost.
Yeah. No, I 100% agree with that. It's just interesting because like normally you'd expect a group that to be weak, but I think that group was still better than Group C, which is kind of weird.
In week two, yes. Yeah. I think week one, TL looked terrible. Mad had probably the worst game that I've seen them play all year. Their debut game was just atrocious.
Yeah,
it made me very like that. I don't know. I felt like LCK was going to win to the point where we couldn't even be happy about the win because League of Legends esports had degraded to the point where nobody else cares other than us. Like that's what I thought after that game. I was like, we lost a region today.
Honestly, mate.
You know,
even after week 2, there's a part of me that is like, Korea's kind of maintained strength. The other regions have got significantly weaker. Unless EDG and RNG proved that wrong during quarterfinals and semis, right now, that's where my mind is at. Is that Korea is still good. The rest of the regions have got significantly weaker.
I will say, the only disagreement I have with that is NA. I think NA has actually got better. But
I agree.
The rest of everyone else. But yeah.
But I think EU and LPL
legitimately best in the group their second week. Yeah. Like TL looked so fucking good in their last day. Like, oh my god. I was extraordinarily impressed by that team.
Yeah, I agree. I actually think it's like you can argue that every team has gotten worse. I actually think it's a purposeful choice made by Riot in terms of the meta. I think the meta is more volatile than it's ever been. I think Mythic item power spikes, the power of Drakes, lead to a situation where comebacks from deficit only happen if teams make big mistakes, which is why it feels so clowny. Right? Like teams just all in on like 10, 90 plays because they know that once they're behind, like either you go balls to the wall all in because you can't get back through conventional means, right? Like if you think about like actually scaling champions, like how good are they really? Feels like most games are decided by you fight in the early river, right? Either for Crab or for fucking Herald at 8 minutes. And then whoever gets their mythic first pushes that advantage, picks up multiple plates, starts snowballing the map. And then if you're a good team, you just win off that, right? And then even if you are a good team, like if you make one misstep, people just, I don't know. I don't like the current mana. I feel like it's too snowbally.
I actually think it's kind of good, personally. I think it's cool to have like more volatility in the game, right? It creates more exciting moments. It creates more unknown and the chaos is exciting to watch if you're a viewer that doesn't care about macro play and stuff like that.
No, I agree. Because it's not a bad choice.
League of Legends to like what they were doing. Because what it used to be was you put down 1 million wards and then no one does anything.
Yeah. Hey, I like Samsung White. Okay, I like that too.
I think that was the best League of Legends.
That was the best team ever, in my opinion. Still, but that's a whole different conversation going on.
I want to see the opportunity where you have like. I don't like you still have the opportunity for one big carry to come back on the opposite team, like the team that's gone under, right? I think you still need the opportunity to have that comeback, whether it's a case of, hey, we've actually got our top side that's done reasonably well, but it does feel at the moment in competitive, and I agree with Chronicler in this, is like, oh, well, we got Rift Herald, we got several plates, now we've reset, we got first mythics, we get full push mid, now we go dive top dives, we get top tower, now now we've got our top that can open up, now we can look for dives mid, or we can rotate bot, like, you end up like with a very cookie cutter easy way to play the game that just snowballs you out of control. I think that's why we're seeing like anyone can kind of get a lead and run away with it. Whereas if there was some way and I think that's why if you look at like next season, they're kind of adding all these comeback mechanics. I think Riot have kind of realized, hang on, we actually don't have a huge amount of ways because of how snowbally everything is to actually get a team back in, even if it's like, oh, well, 2 of our lanes have gone fine. It's just one lane that's blown up, but that one lane has cost us the game.
Yeah, I think it's a combination of like the Drakes, the Mythics, because Mythic spikes are fucking stupid, right? Like if you finish Gold Drinker and no one else has it, then you can just force anything that you want. And that's also the reason why picks like TF and Ryze are so big, because advantages once gained, and these champions are really good at like gaining advantages through overforcing on specific side of the map if your opponent doesn't read them perfectly. You could very rapidly just generate leads all across. I do think still it rewards good play, but I do think that that's why teams have felt worse, right? Because when you lose, it looks really stupid because the enemy team just goes for a flip play and then you just lose off of that. It's like Elder is up.
So I have...
Yeah, I guess. But when both teams have the opportunity to do the same thing, like what Dagda said, right? Like, if you know that a team is about to do all of these things in succession, obviously you can counter that, right? So it's not. So it's not quite.
I think the problem, Atlus,
egregious. You know,
the problem is that like, so you have the opportunity to counter them, but like it's that one opportunity at 10 minutes, and then once that opportunity doesn't work out for you, the game is like insurmountable almost.
I think I'll also say it can be really hard. Like, say you get like mid push, right? And I think the one example I'm actually going to use is like Mad Lions LNG, where like Mad Lions get mid push, Elyoya is on Kiana, they stay forever in their top side and they go for the dive, right? Like you get the TP up and Mad Lions completely like miss. I think it's like Elyoya misses his QE. You've got Humanoid who misses his QW on LeBlanc as well, so you don't get all the damage that you need onto Ale. Ale gets a double kill off that play, and like, all right, cool. Now LNG can like have found a way to bounce back against that play. But if like you have any sort of CC there, it's like, okay, cool. Top lane's dead. He loses two waves. We don't really have any sort of way to get him back into the game unless we like hard commit top, but we still got no mid priority, and then we're just in a lot of trouble.
Yeah, so then you're just flipping it, and you're relying on the enemy team being bad.
Yeah, because then
so
if
you think that like the meta before was better, like the tracker's knife, like ward everything was less
the faster games.
snowbally.
I enjoy the more snowbally. I think it's more there was like counterplay to it. I think at the moment there's like it's really difficult, as Chronicler was saying, to like get back into the game. I
argue that it's the opposite. I think it's much easier to come back because I think the shutdowns are so much more valuable and things like this.
The difference is
shutting out vision infinitely is obviously going to stop you from ever making mistakes far better than anything else.
I think the problem for me is that I agree with you. I think that the issue that I have with now, I think that better teams always won in the previous meta, like in the old metas, right? Like you're talking about like season 3, 4, 5, when Mada was like, hey, what if I just control the entire map and you can never do anything at any point, right? I don't think that was,
by the way.
Sorry?
Like Guinness went everywhere.
Yeah. Oh no.
Sorry.
Actually, sorry, I have to interrupt this. Max and I, when we were out on our lovely day today, we saw a place called Baby Guiness. It's an Irish pub.
Oh.
Yeah.
I know what a Baby Guiness is.
No, it was Guinness Baby.
Wait.
Guinness
no, it was Baby Guiness.
Oh, was it Baby Guinness?
Yeah. What is a Baby Guiness?
Baby Guinness is a shot with Tia Maria and a little bit of Bailey's that goes on top of it and is absolutely delicious.
Wow, I had no idea.
Yeah, it is gorgeous. Well worth
It's actually a thing. I thought it was just Korea being Korea.
If COVID ever ends and I can come visit Korea, will you take me to Baby Guinness?
Hell yeah!
And we can have a Guinness baby.
Yeah,
sure.
I'll take you to Shenanigans though. Shenanigans is great.
I've heard of Shenanigans. I've heard of that before.
I do have to say, Munch, when it comes to bars, do not just listen to Atlus. He will take you where you need to go. I have no idea, and it should not be listened to.
You know what? I will take you with me, Chronicler, and we will follow Atlus. How's that?
Yes, that is indeed that's the optimal path.
As well. Can I come on?
Yes,
of course you can. Of course you can.
That's the best.
How else are we going to do Bevvies with the Boys live?
And then we get you all to Ireland, and we'll get you a proper Guinness as well.
All right.
Anyway,
I have a tangent.
Oh, actually, on a side note, before we move on very quickly, because Atlus, I know you like your Guinness. There is now a new thing that Guinness have where you can buy this machine and you pour your can of Guinness, you pop your glass into it, and it like shakes it super efficiently, so it gets the perfect head on top of your Guinness.
Oh,
yeah.
Is that sort of like an upgrade to the little bowl thing in the can?
Yeah, it's an upgrade to that. It like shakes
my desk.
It shakes your glass perfectly, so that then it actually creates like the perfect pour pint of Guinness. And from the lads that I know in Ireland that have tried it, they've said it's like the best Guinness they've had from a can ever.
Holy shit! Perfect.
I might try
So
that.
I'll look into how I can get you one.
So I do want to jump back into that conversation about meta slightly. I want to go on a kind of tangential question to you guys, because this is something that it's been on my mind across the course of this tournament, and it was on my mind during MSI as well. And I've not said anything. I thought about tweeting about this, but I feel like as an LPL commentator, this will just come across as salty because LPL's sort of shit the bed at the tournament. What do you guys think about these weird, huge patches that Riot is doing right before international tournaments? Because they did it at MSI and they've done it at Worlds as well. But like, I think 2-3 years ago, there was a big statement from Riot saying, hey, we're not going to do giant patches right before Worlds anymore because it completely fucks everything the teams have been working towards. Because there was a huge outcry when I think it was like Triforce got buffed in 2017 or 2018 or something like this. There was a huge community conversation about it. And Riot basically said, yeah, don't worry, we're not going to do this again. They kind of didn't for a couple of years. And then this year, it feels like we've gone completely opposite direction on that theory. And now we're completely changing the meta going into the World Championship. I'm curious what you guys think on, it keeps the game fresh, right? But it's also everything the teams
I think they always need a balance patch, right? They're never going to really know how much it's going to affect the game. I think what you're talking about is systems changes that they made going into Worlds. For example, Juggernauts that happened before, what was it?
Mordekaiser.
2015? Like the Mordekaiser Darius garbage.
Gangplank.
And Gangplank, like that was an actual like big system shift that they did moving into the World Championship, which was like, these selection of champions will now be reworked to be giga busted for no reason at all right before an international event. Like, that's what they said they weren't going to do again. But I think doing a lot of changes on champions that they saw as being not as good for the meta for an entertaining Worlds, I think is a different thing. Because what they're doing is trying to balance the game to a point where it's going to be more interesting. So whether you agree with that or not, I think is more the question, right? Is do you want the game to be balanced before an international event? And by balanced, I mean patched, as in not it will never be balanced. It's more like swayed in a certain direction for them to like try and make things more interesting.
I personally think that they are just hard forcing stuff. I think if you look at the jungle clears that certain champions got, like that is just very upfront. Like we want these champions to be meta in this tournament. But I do think that even though it cost us MSI, and let's not forget that at MSI, everyone was playing Morgana and Rumble, but then RNG just played Udyr every single, played basically playoff patches, comps every single game. And those were still, and they won with those.
Which is what LPL's doing at this tournament as well, by the way, pretty much.
Yeah. No, legit, but it's easy to forget, but in the end, the team that won it all just prioritized the same things that were good on playoffs. I actually personally think that even though it does increase volatility, it also rewards teams that are versatile and that are good at adapting to the meta. And whether you want that to be a part of a team's skill set is, I think, the main discussion. Do you think that should be the case, right? Do you want to, because that's, I think one of the things I love about Worlds is we don't know what the meta is going to be until we're 2-3 weeks into the tournament. I think that's super cool, but it does mean that it will be more volatile. If you want to know who is the best at the point that every single team finishes summer playoffs, you shouldn't they wouldn't patch the way they do, right? They're very clearly trying to completely shake everything up. I think it's cool. But I also see why, as a team, it can be very frustrating and it can lead to burnout because you're continuously trying to catch up to a never-ending revolving wheel of changes, right? And then, you're good on certain... how many players are actually good on, a variety of champions, right? How many players truly have been good year after year after year through tank meta, through juggernaut meta, through carry meta? That's what, 10? If that... even. So I think in terms of entertainment, it's beautiful, right? Fucking Yumi first pick apparently is the most broken pick. Who? What?
We said
Amumu was supposed to be broken, And then, well, I mean, I think Yuumi in particular is a shit example because the champion is so hated. But
that was
Yuumi,
not the best choice, yeah.
If it, well,
but
no,
I agree with you.
But Yuumi wasn't buffed, right? But like, say Yuumi was, I don't know, what's a champion? Like Vega, for example, right? Like, it turned out that Vega all along was like, I think that part of the tournament is really cool.
Yeah.
But it also increases volatility. It also increases the chance that a team that like early adapts and like then just scrims only those type of comps like does better than they should. But isn't that in of itself like skill expression?
It depends on whether or not you think a way to judge a team includes how good they are at adapting.
Yeah.
And how flexible they are and how willing they are to change and that sort of stuff. If you include that with what you think makes a team good, then you're not going to get tilted. If you think that a team should be able to play their style and never have to change and then get judged on them at their best playing that style, you're going to never be happy. You're just going to be real tilted all the time until, Samsung Galaxy goes to Worlds in 2017 and they design a patch for them. That's the one year you're going to be excited. Like that's the example that I have, right? Like that's, if you were a Samsung Galaxy fan that year, you're like, oh, finally they can play their League of Legends. Well, as it turns out, the game isn't yours. Like the game is constantly changing. That's the game you've chosen to play. You're not play chess. If you want a game that never changes, fucking play chess. Don't play League of Legends. Go play a different game. That's what this game is about. Have the skill set required in order to be the best at the game that you're playing. Or don't play a different game.
Going back a step as well, I just want to say, like, from an entertainment value, like, just not as like, because we're obviously professionals that work in League of Legends, right? I think we're a little bit like
professional is a strong word.
Whatever.
Yeah.
We exist within the League of Legends sphere, all right? And I think, like, when you go back to just being a fan, like, I remember, like, I was talking to Chronicler and we were talking about, like, what champions we expect to be coming up to Worlds. And he was like, dude, have you seen this Silas counterpick for a Mumu? And I was like, what? I was fully invested. I was like, I want to go and look at this. And I was like, stuff like that I still think is really cool. Like, the excitement and the buzz coming into Worlds where it's just like, what is it? What am I going to see? What is going to happen on my screen? I think is really cool. So even though, like, as a player, it might suck, from a fan, like purely just a fan and entertainment perspective, it is so much fun coming into these tournaments and going, well, what am I going to see? What's going to happen? And it does kind of add a little bit to the, hey, well, damn, one of the best team and they're just going to win. It's like, well, the meta is a bit different, and it opens up a lot more discussion angles and that kind of stuff, which I think adds a lot of excitement to the tournament as well.
It also kind of, what's the best way to put this? I know, like we're such everyone watching this as well is like it's really easy to forget an extremely hardcore part of the League of Legends fan base, right? There's like, how many people are like watching Worlds, like just in English, not even any other language, but it's like full, between
pretty much.
Between 200 and 250 and 500,000, right? How many of those actually interact with like League? Like most of those, they just watch Worlds and they'll watch finals, for the region that they like. Maybe they'll watch a bit of playoffs. They'll catch a game every now and then. So it's really easy to forget that we're also arguing from a very purist point of view. Not even purist, that isn't the right term, but you guys know what I mean? Like we're all very
a hardcore point of view.
I think for us, honestly, it's good that the game changed as much as it does. I think, because I think that we would get bored. Remember Ude and how fun that was for like the half a year it took? No, neither does anyone else.
I will say though, it is slightly terrifying being on. So for the very first broadcast of the year for LPL, where they've completely brought in all these new fucking items and everything else, and then I get to Worlds, my first ever Worlds, where I'm casting, and they're like, "Hey, we have no fucking clue what the meta is going to be. Have the opening cast." Now I'm grateful that I have them. Don't get me wrong. But I was like, I'm fucking terrified. What the fuck is going on my screen? I'm like, am I prepared? Like, do I know everything that's ready? Am I just going to get some weird shit that's going to come up my screen? I'm like, sorry lads, I have absolutely no idea what this is.
I think there's certainly, very selfishly as a caster, I like to know what's going on, right? And there's a beautiful sweet spot in every meta where the patch has been out for like maybe 3 weeks or something, and we haven't changed patches. And like, I know within reason what is going to be drafted. I know within reason what to expect in a game, but there is room for creativity still, and there's room for people trying different stuff and teams to have different styles. Like, not to the extent of the MSI meta where it was like, as you say, Rumble and Morgana, but there's a sweet spot there for a week or so where it's like the meta is still a little bit creative, but largely formulaic. And as a commentator, that's fucking great, because I can sound like a genius. I can sound like incredibly smart, because there's this, like, I think a lot of people really don't understand that draft is very formulaic the vast majority of the time if you understand what the meta is and how the meta works. And I think a lot of people don't watch enough drafts to think about that stuff. But like, if you can figure that formula out for each patch, then League becomes more enjoyable, at least for me personally, because like there's a level of like predictability with some creativity still in there. It's just when that goes on too long and the creativity dies down, that's when it gets monotonous.
Yeah, I feel like you're actually arguing for exactly what's been happening. Because like that also happens at Worlds as well, right? Like there is that moment that all of the fans get to as well alongside us, right? That everyone's like watching along, and it comes at around week 2 of groups, moving into week 1 of knockouts, where you've got a relatively settled meta, but then all of the teams can come in and break it.
And they've been prepping for a week, and they've been trying things in scrims.
Yeah. And I think that it's actually kind of beautiful that that's the timeline that's sort of chosen by Riot for Worlds as well, because it does mean that you sort of see exactly what we're talking about with like the teams that adapt and the teams that understand getting rewarded. But then the teams that have the ability to think outside the box when things have been figured out then get rewarded after they can go again and again, But then when you've got like it almost becoming like, I don't know, tic-tac-toe, like it gets to the point where we've outthought all of the outthinking for way too long, and then it's boring, and then no one wants to watch it anymore.
I actually wonder about, like, I would love to see what happens if League just stops getting patched from like one day to like nothing happens to the game that is right now. It's like, but like, because if you look at, I think Brood War is the best example, but even something like Melee comes to mind. I think there is so much depth to every patch that we're never ever going to see, because teams will never be forced to keep exploring. Because Graves top is one of the most broken picks in the tournament, right? And Atlus already pointed out repeatedly, like LS mentioned that, like 2 years ago? Probably, Max? 2?
Yeah, I don't think it was as strong at the time. But
the best example is Ardent Sensor, right? Ardent Sensor was not buffed going into that World Championship.
Yeah, exactly.
That had been that way for 6 months.
And I personally think that you kind of want to do like a separate timeline where you just take a patch of League and you just stick with it and like see what happens. Like, because there's so much shit that we never find out. But from a general day-to-day basic entertainment perspective, a never-ending meta development forced by Riot, it's probably a lot better for everyone involved. Even with all the downsides that it has.
Yeah, I think I've had this conversation with Munch before, where it's just like, I'd love if they just kind of kept League on one trajectory, and it's just like, cool, a patch like 11-12, we just stop. Like, whatever the hell that Classic. Is, that League still keeps going, and you've just got another like version of League that just stays right as it is, and then you just can play on that if you want, and just see what happens. Because I know, talking for the Melee meta, I'm not a big Melee fan, so this is like from watching like YouTube videos and stuff. But I know like Meta Knight used to be this big issue where he's like absolutely busted, absolutely broken. And then they found out, I think it was on Fox, that they had like a certain like combo that they could use that countered Meta Knight eventually. But this was like 10 years or whatever after they found out you could do this. And suddenly that blew the whole meta wide open again. So I think it'd be cool to have moments like that, just to see what happens when you get to like, oh, we're hyper solved, but you're not really.
I will say, it was always King DD for me that was broken. Yeah, so, I mean, me and Rob have talked endlessly about all kinds of scenarios in League of Legends, because I love those kinds of conversations. I really love digging into potential ways to run tournaments and things like this. For me personally, like I'm one of the few proponents of like wacky tournament systems that works in professional League of Legends, right? I feel like that's a very popular idea in like tier 2 esports, but obviously it's not super sustainable and you can't guarantee viewership and it's difficult for sponsors and for teams, right? But certainly for me, I would love if we could change up the tournament style in League of Legends a little bit, and instead of having 2 splits that last the vast majority of the year, finishing in Worlds with MSI in between, packed schedule to the point where players don't want to play tournaments for the last month of the year, I would much rather have more cool stuff in there. I would be totally happy if we removed one of the splits and had like IEM style tournaments. I would love.
I was about to say, remember IPL 5,
dude? Right, IPL 5. Some kind of tournament where you don't include the top 3 teams from each region, and we get like average regional strength comparison.
Oh my god!
Or some kind of tournament
like
where you're only inviting solo queue superstars or something like this. I would love to see these different types of League of Legends tournaments. These would be so.
So you think we should play?
Cool.
It should be Counter-Strike. Is that what you think? Like
I personally love the Counter-Strike system, but it's a different.
Being able to watch people play each week.
So I don't have a strong enough opinion to the point where I'm like, we should destroy the franchise system. We should rework League of Legends, because I think we have a very good thing, and I think it'd be a very spoilt perspective to say our system sucks. We should copy Counter-Strike. But I do think that our system is too rigid and leaves no flexibility for interesting and fun tournaments.
I mean, this is
different styles,
like Rift Rivals.
Like Rift Rivals, but there are better ways to approach Rift Rivals. I think Rift Rivals was in of itself too rigid, because it sort of had to be the same thing.
Teams had to go to it.
Because I think if you have that as a slot, right, and you change, it's almost like rotating game mode. You know how you get like ARAM and then you get Earth and then you get, well, ARAM's not rotating. I can't remember all the rotating game modes, but you've got that slot of like weird shit happening. I wish we had that in the tournament system, where we have a tournament where it's like seeds 4 to 6 from each region come and play in this tournament. And then we have some kind of fucking 2v2 tournament, or like cool different shit. I think would be amazing. I think that would be so refreshing.
I think it'd be cool, but also, would people watch that at all?
I would watch.
Yeah, that. I think it'd be cool to have that, but I think if we add expectation to the players that are already playing MSI and Worlds, they are going to hate it even more, and everyone's going to get burnt out. And then if you don't have any of those players at your tournament, you can feel free to have your tournament, but no one will watch.
Exactly.
I mean,
so that's kind of my original point, right? Is the league
it's
schedule
like you're asking, can I have my cake and eat it too? And you can't.
Yeah.
I think in the long term, the position that game companies have, because it is their intellectual property, is eventually it's going to backfire, right? I think that what League used to have, where everyone could basically just organize a League of Legends tournament, I think that's healthier for the show, because I think it breeds, or for the sport rather, I think it breeds healthy competition, and I think that it is in general bad if I think monopolies are bad, right? Like, that's the basic gist of it. I think it's understandable what Riot has done, where they have collectively like drawn as much influence to themselves they possibly can, but it's lots of things like OGN, right? I think OGN was an incredible creative force, and of course it's not as black and white as Riot pulled it, so it's gone. But I do think that, and this is something we see a lot of companies, if Riot wasn't only allowing themselves to organize League of Legends tournaments, if the Riot broadcast like 10, 20 years down the line, right? We have no clue who's going to lead this company, what's going to happen, how it's going to do. As long as Riot keeps a tight grip, there is no way for anyone else to innovate, to like try and find new ways, to actually find like new creative angles to run broadcasts, do other stuff. And this is getting very like deep into like, do you think Riot then, like, should Riot give it up, which they're never going to do because it's their IP, right? Like, why the fuck would they?
And they did give it up. Like the LCO they did give it up. The LCO is an example. Like, they canned the OPL.
Yeah, but that's okay. But the LCO still you can't run anything without Riot's explicit permission, right? And it didn't used to be that way.
Yes. Yeah. What? Yeah. Of course it did.
I think it did. Yeah. No, it
was
always
always
has been
that way.
that way.
Has it always been?
They were just more lax on whether or not you could get permission.
Ah, okay, fair enough. Oh, well,
But
let's,
so
let,
I-
let's,
so
let
I
me.
think it's a-
yeah.
I think it's a different-
IPL,
I think it's a
MLG,
different
like, yeah.
issue, though, to quite how you're prescribing it, because I think the significant issue is not whether or not you can get permission from Riot. The significant issue is whether or not you can get the players, right? And as Atlus said, like, the pro player schedule is so packed, like, I know I'm not going to get the best players. And proof that you can run tournaments within League of Legends is like Twitch Rivals and things like this, right? There are community tournaments that are run, but you just don't get the same level of viewership because it's not going to be the same level of play. But I think, like, I think inevitably if you create some kind of system, let's say maybe like the spring split is cut in half or something, so that there is space for some shenanigans and some third-party tournaments or whatever. The inherent problem and the argument against it is, like, let's say DreamHack runs a tournament and they pick some wacky game mode that some random admin that works at DreamHack picked that he thought was a good idea, but it never really got checked because none of the guys at DreamHack actually play League of Legends except this one dude. Like, well, you might just have a really shit tournament. And I've worked at third-party companies. This is how some of this stuff is decided. Like, genuinely, it's not always triple-checked. Like, it's possible that some of this stuff just sucks, and especially if it's the first year that you try any of this stuff and it just sucks, well, it's never going to happen again. So there are inherent massive risks in that, and like, Riot has to answer to their shareholders at the end of the day, and if you cut your spring split in half and you got this garbage instead, like, what fucking argument do you have? What, like, do you have to stand on?
I mean, All-Star exists for that exact reason, right? And like, if Riot didn't want there to be some sort of like change up, then All-Star wouldn't have ever happened.
Yeah.
And I think what they discovered was that no one really cares about All-Star. The players all hate it. And why are we doing this when no one's getting enough out of it? And so All-Star is one of these things where it's like, this is a for fun tournament, but like, the thing that makes League of Legends fun for the majority of people is winning. So for fun doesn't actually exist in League of Legends.
That's the thing that I wanted. So one of the things that I loved from, because I like, you're talking about StarCraft earlier on. I came from StarCraft, at least like from a player perspective, and like that's what got me into esports. I really want to bring it back. There was a Red Bull tournament that they did where there was just be mad stuff that happened throughout the game. So like basically chat could vote and like nuclear strikes would happen all over the map, and you just had to like run away from all the nuclear strikes that were happening. Or, you know, okay, this player suddenly gets like, hey, there's a gold minerals in the middle of the map that you can just go and collect, or like just have crazy wacky stuff that happens. And I'd love to take that concept and apply it to a League of Legends game for a for fun game. So it's like, cool, chat can vote that there are now Teemo shrooms everywhere in the map. And like, you don't know where the hell the Teemo shrooms are, and you can just run into them, you'll die, and it's just like all just for fun. We just have mad stuff happen where it's like, okay, cool, every person in the game gets like a random, I don't know, maybe not a random item, but a random component, or like everyone gets a dragon. Like, I don't know, something like along these lines is just like, hey, this is actually just a for fun tournament that's just about creating these wacky, crazy scenarios, rather than it being a, hey, this is actually something that we can look at competitively. Because I think when you have rift rivals and stuff, it does become inherently competitive because teams want to represent their region. But if the game mode is just that completely off the walls, I think it could work.
What I think is like the one,
I don't know.
I think the one angle that I would love to see, and this is like I think one that solves a lot of issues, is where people just get thrown into a big pool and you just draft teams out of that. And so you have like players that you usually never play together actually play. And then you can still make it competitive, but you also get the wacky aspect of it. I thought it'd be fucking hilarious. Imagine having like Reckless and Carrier on a team with JJ and I don't know, whoever else you want to put in there. Hanabi and I know we need a mid laner who's fun.
Yeah, you need to give the players some sort of incentive to actually do it, and like a reason that's actually good, that isn't Riot told me that I had to go and do this, or my organization told me that I had to do this. Because in every instance, the players have just had a gigantic, extraordinarily stressful season, and fuck doing something that isn't going to make me better at the game for next year, right? And I actually think, like, thinking about it from the player's perspective, asking them to come and play Timo Shroom Raining on You game or something like that reminds me of fucking Michael Jordan in Space Jam, where the fucking evil aliens want to just take him to a theme park and tie him up, you know? Like, that's what that makes me think of. Like, these players don't want to be there.
Yeah.
Like, we want to give them something that they actually want to do, because watching them do the thing that they're really good at and be good at it for a reason
head,
is what makes it good.
The way it worked would be like not the top players. The draw would be, hey, we don't have the best players, but this is just going to be a wacky tournament that's still very, very good players, but in ridiculous scenarios. So it takes like the pull away from, hey, we need the top players, and the pull of watching this is, hey, this is going to be hectic League of Legends. But, like, I get what you're saying. I don't want top players involved, because at the end of the day, if you end up adding another tournament to the schedule they currently have, like, you're screwed. Like, there's no way they'd be able to manage.
Yeah, your thing would work in like a Twitch Rivals like really well. Like, you take like streamers and personalities and stuff like that, but then we're talking about a completely different thing.
Yeah, fair.
So it's a little bit different.
I do agree with you, Max. I think what you're saying regarding like the mindset of the players and how much stress is on them, and like for them it's a job, right? Like for them going from I'm doing my job to I'm doing my job, but there are no stakes. Probably not what they'd love.
Okay,
oh God,
so
what happened?
I've just accidentally listened to a tweet on the stream. I thought my PC audio was muted to the stream. It was definitely not.
It's just Khan.
It's Khan screaming in pain after getting 3-man dive top. Apparently,
I mean that's Khan. This is
pretty hilarious. The link is in.
This is what Khan needs to win Worlds. Khan is just fucking hilarious.
I apologize. I feel like I've totally derailed the conversation by accident.
I think it's fine.
I'm laughing at Raz's tweet underneath, which is just me when I get flicked in the nuts.
Jesus. Yeah. Sorry, guys. I've totally derailed this one now, haven't I?
I think we hit the natural end of that conversation.
Yeah.
Regardless.
So any final points that you guys want to hit on? Because I feel like this episode is sort of coming to its natural close. Any final notes or any thoughts that you want to pass out to the world about Worlds, about anything?
I have 3. First and foremost, I really want Khan to win Worlds. This player's journey, like this year, has been incredible. I think he's been one of the most underrated players. Coming into MSI, people were like saying he was a sign one trick. He was kind of shit. He's been washed up. He's been choking for years. And then he was like outside of Showmaker, the best performing on his entire team. This tournament has been even better, right? He's a player that is the most successful domestic player in the LCK ever. Has won 6 titles on 3 or 4 different teams, depending on like which. If you consider Longzhu and what was it after Longzhu? It wasn't Kingzone, right?
Kingzone, yeah.
It was
Longzhu, Kingzone, DRX,
Dragon X. Yeah, okay.
Well, even Kingzone was Dragon X, right? Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so on 3 or 4 different teams, he's been the highlight of like every interview. Just and he said he would cry in the LCK summer interview, so I really wanted to win. Secondly, wanted to thank Atlus and all the other LCK casters. It's been really quite the journey to be relocated to the other end of the world in the middle of a pandemic. Even considering I love Korea, right? And they've taken very good care of me. And that has been incredible. And listen to "Run Away with Me" by Carly Rae Jepsen. It's a great song.
Oh, it's a banger.
I think so good every time that comes on.
Just like to tell everyone to listen to it. I think it's really good.
It's on my random. I have a playlist of just like random shit, and every time that comes on, I think of you now. I just want you to know.
Glad.
It's in my guilty
I like that
playlist. It's so good.
All right, so Chronicler loves Carly Rae Jepsen, wants to see a grown man cry. Atlus, over to you.
Oh God, where to start? The first thing that I want to say is that if you decide that you need to spill beer on your desk, spill Guinness because it's way less sticky, I've discovered.
Nice.
This is definitely a positive. Also, I'm glad that we can all be happy about Khan winning Worlds this year because it's the closest FPX is going to get to winning anything at this tournament, which is kind of good. So that we can together enjoy some League of Legends victory as well when Khan wins. That's definitely going to be great. And the other thing is, thanks so much for finally having me on the show. This was a gas. It was really, really fun. So
yeah,
it was a ton of fun
having you. It was great having Chronicler's bonus guest at the end there as well.
Yeah, I got ganked by girlfriend.
Did Tamara drive by or what?
Yeah,
what happened?
she drove by. You want to wave? It's the end of the show.
Just wave a hand.
Oh, there we go.
The first ever 3 guest episode. Let's go.
Hey, what's Dagda if he's not? Isn't he a guest as well? Sort of.
I mean, he's on every episode.
Yeah.
I feel like he's
know,
definitely a
co-host. It's
co-host.
a joint show, but we've just hosted a Munches because I don't have a channel. And then
We had a Bevvies With The Boys channel for a little bit, but
yeah, it failed miserably.
I feel like we just like killed our viewership and made people go, where the fuck did this show go? So we migrated back here and agreed on some terms of how ownership would work of the show. Yeah. Just in case it pops off big time. Dagda, any final thoughts for our audience before we close things out?
Hey, there we go. See, I knew it.
Full clock.
I knew it.
As the third guest.
Well, now I'm definitely not gonna everyone thinks it's your show already, so whatever. But just to say, thanks for coming on, guys. Really appreciate it. It was a ton of fun chatting to you guys, and it was a long time in the making. So nice to have you guys on, and looking forward to seeing you smash more casts of Worlds. It's been a ton of fun listening to the Tricast. So
I've one question. When we all end, what's going to be the final? Because I think it's going to be RNG DK.
EDG DK, I think.
Atlus, where you at, mate?
Oh, well, I want it to be EDG DK. I think it's going to be Genji DK.
Oh, no, that's the darkest timeline.
That's a hell of a prediction. EDG Mad Lions, let's fucking go, boys. I'll see you in the finals. And with that, we're going to end the episode. Gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us. It's been an absolute blast. Dagda, as always, thanks. And everyone in chat, it's been wonderful. We'll catch you in the next episode.
Good boys.